And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
We're live, baby.
You know it. Good morning. It's 8:05 Eastern Time, and of course 5:05 on the Pacific Coast. How's everybody doing this morning? You know, John, I was just thinking about it. We were talking about it before. You know, the older I get, the less sleep that I need, actually. Which I was never much of a big sleeper, but like you asked me how much I sleep. If I sleep 4 hours, that's a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the sweet spot for me is like 5.5 to 6 hours. What about you? Do you still require a lot of sleep? Or
I used to only sleep like 3-4 hours a night, like maybe 4 hours a night forever for like 30 years, I think. Now I sleep like 6-7 hours, sometimes 8 hours a night. I can't do it anymore. In my old age, I'm actually reverse. You know,
they say as you get older that you do require less sleep. Like, you know, babies and kids, they need a lot of sleep. And then I know, like, I was never a big sleeper, but and I never really took too many naps. I know a lot of people, they take naps. That helps. Do you nap during the day?
Nah, who the hell has time to nap, bro? I'm fucking. Oh,
I don't really take time to nap. But I know I can't even watch a movie. Like, if I try to watch a movie, I'm out cold. I pass out. It doesn't even last. I watch the credits in the beginning, and I watch the credits at the end. That's it.
Yeah. So guys, listen. Sorry about yesterday. For those of you on YouTube. Apparently YouTube was very unhappy that we played the Turkish video of Eric Adams where he was getting bribed by a Turkish businessman. So I didn't realize it. I didn't play the SNL skit on purpose because I realized there was a copyright, and I don't know why I was thinking there wouldn't be a copyright with the Turkish movie. And yeah, they took the whole stream down. I'll probably get that up at some point. I'm just going to have to edit it. I don't have time this week, so it'll probably just be in the archives if you ever missed anything. But it's up on Rumble. It's up on X. It's up on a bunch of other places. The audios are out everywhere. So it's not really a big deal. So if any of you guys were wondering, I know I got a lot of messages last night. Did they take you guys down? They didn't take us down. They just pulled that one video down. They said it was copyright. Video can't be shown.
What's up in New York, brother? How's it going over there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's New York's busy, man. There's a lot of people here, dude. But I gotta be honest, man. It does not look good. It just doesn't. I always say it. I come like every 2-3 months, and every time I come, it's significantly worse than the time I came before. Very noticeable. And I noticed on Staten Island, like all the businesses that I shop at, all the restaurants that I go to continue to move further out towards Jersey. And literally everybody that calls me is either they want to meet at like the end of Staten Island or they want to meet in Jersey. I've been bouncing around. I went to the city, I went to the Queens, I've been in Brooklyn. And I think those are the biggest differences. But Staten Island's busy, man. Staten Island turned into Bay Ridge. It's not, it's packed with people. Traffic's horrible. I haven't seen any cops. It's crazy. It's weird. It's weird, dude. Because you know the rhythm of cops when you're in New York City. Like there's, every few blocks you'll see a cop car. If I saw 3 cops in like 5-6 days, that's a lot,
dude. Listen, yesterday, September 30th, was 2 years officially since I've been retired from the NYPD, and my boots have not hit the ground in 2 years either in New York. So I'm sure if I went to New York right now, eventually I have to go. It's going to be a sight to see. Yeah, but yesterday, 2 years. I can't believe 2 years already passed. 2 years ago, I was coined as the most complained cop. And, I've already been far removed from the police department. 2 years already in retirement. Time goes like this. It's amazing. Just think some of the guys that were working for me, that were passing the torch. They were rookies, and they're now becoming the veterans on the job. It's just amazing how fast time goes. And let's do it. Hey, listen, good morning, everybody. Our friends, listeners. We got Nighthawk 13666 always doing roll call for us. Yvette, how you doing? Yvette, thank you so much for that really nice donation to the podcast yesterday. It was really nice. Patrick Donahue, what's up, brother?
Wait, I just want to know what's up. Why does Yvette not like me for? She's like,
Oh yeah. What happened yesterday?
Like, what did I say or do to you? She said, "Happy Tuesday, Eric and chat." By the way, Eric, you get half of the podcast donations, right? Of course he does. What kind of question is that? He actually gets a third. One third. Come on,
Yvette, thank you so much. Hey, Yvette, if you could drop in the comments what happened with John if he pissed you off.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know what I said. I did.
Yeah. Hey, Crow Eater, good morning, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, Drone Ranger, here's another friend. Listen to the podcast. Michael Free, Joe Mango, Paul Haggerty, King Cujo, Sleepy Joe. I think that's a new name, right? And who else? Booster Malacca. Hassan, brother, how you doing? Unfiltered Fishing. Good morning. How you doing? Good people. Jesse James, Matt O'Brien. Listen, we got a lot of people. Let's get into it. Top Adams advisor, Tim Crumbs, Pearson Resigns amid corruption probe. Did this come as a shocker to you?
Absolutely not. This did not come as a shocker to me. So we're gonna get into Tim Pearson resigning. Yeah, I don't. I mean, again, Eric Adams. I want to say, was it a dumb move keeping Tim Pearson from letting him resign? Or was it a smart move showing loyalty to Tim Pearson and not firing him like Lisa Zornberg had advised, right? The top legal advisor that also resigned. So was it dumb or was it stupid? Was it dumb or was it smart? Like, I'm not shocked that he resigned. I'm shocked that Eric Adams didn't remove him and take the advice of Lisa Zornberg. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe it was smart to show loyalty to Pearson, especially since you guys have been childhood friends forever. And God only knows what he knows about you that you don't want to come out. So, like they say, don't leave people out there that you commit crimes with. So I think that was him showing loyalty. What do you think about that? Should he, were you shocked? And should he have fired him when Zornberg said, or did he wind up putting his foot in his mouth anyway?
Listen, of course they put their feet in their mouths anyway, but I think it was a smart move. I think it was a smart move for him to hang on as long as he could. I mean, he was hanging on, one finger on a cliff, but I think it was a smart move. And, this is really the test of time right now to find out how much loyalty is in this circle. If the amount of corruption that's alleged, all the grumblings that we hear, people talking, what's been going on for years, if it does come true and it actually has teeth to what's going on here, then eventually that loyalty is going to break anyway. Listen, I seen it. When I was working out in the South Bronx, I tell you, you had some hardcore guys and you thought they wouldn't talk. Everybody breaks. Everybody breaks. I'll tell you this, though. The only people that don't break, I can tell you this right now, are women. I'm telling you straight up. I've had hardcore guys, they're in the game, they don't talk. But women, when they defend their man, forget it. They don't break. I've had plenty of women take gun charges for men. I've had them take robbery charges for men, and they don't break. It's unbelievable. The loyalty and allegiance when it comes to women on certain things. But when we're talking about as thick as these guys will break. It's just a matter of time. And that's my assessment.
I don't know. If that says that's bullshit yesterday, don't play stupid with me. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't mess with women either. So they don't break. And, somebody was saying how peaceful the world would be if women were in charge. And I was like, if they made all women heads, you removed all the men. I'm like, I don't know about that, man. I think we'd be at war all the time,
Not at all. No.
Who said that war with me? I don't even know what I did. See, she's like, she already put her head out on me.
Was that a woman or a man?
What?
Who said that? That the world be safer with women in charge? Hell no. No way. I'll tell you straight up.
Oh, it was a guy, but I was like, I don't think so. I was like, once a month, my wife wants to kill me for no reason.
That's what I'm saying.
I just start getting crazy text messages. I'm like, what the hell did I do? It's like a vet right now. She's coming at me. I don't know what the hell's going on.
you know what I'm talking about. You can come home and you can get in trouble for something you might say because your wife's already prepared in her head. She has a question to ask you, and she's already mad because she thinks what your response might be. You didn't even say it yet, but she's already mad and she's already calculated her next response. So, no, like I said, absolutely not. If women are in power, they're setting the dogs on you. So, yeah. Hey, listen, Yvette, you got to let us know what's going on here. Don't worry about it. We're gonna have you take care of John.
Well, don't. I'm sorry, but I don't know what I did, but I apologize. Don't worry.
She's gonna let us know. You know what? She's playing possum right now, not letting us know.
Yeah.
VSS Ventores, $5 of the podcast. Thank you so much. Says left 2+ years ago. Best move I made. Hope Eric Adams is ready for the Diddy party in prison. Hashtag baby oil. And I think there was somebody else here who donated to the podcast.
No, that was it.
That was it?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, I could have sworn it. But yeah, dude, I mean, listen, the house of cards is crumbling. There's gonna be nobody left. But let's get into it. What do you think about listen, I know you made this picture. This is outstanding. This is hilarious. This is a banger.
So yeah, no, it's a new movie, Crumbs. It's a 2024 biographical crime documentary, a look into public corruption in New York City. So we're gonna be pitching this book out to a couple of places. And Crumbs, from the streets of South Jamaica, Queens to the City Hall, baby. Honestly, I'm telling you, man, like the dude's a character, so is everybody around him. I could see this movie doing real well. I could see the book being a bestseller. He actually has a book coming out. For those of you that don't know, I don't know the title of it. We'll get that. I'm definitely going to read that book. I don't think he wrote it by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll listen to it anyway. But he has a book coming out. He's expecting it to be a -- bestseller. I think Crumbs is going to top the charts on that one. I don't even think he's going to come close. So Tim Pearson, dude, what do you think, bro? Were you shocked that he resigned? And should Adams have took Zornberg's advice?
I tell you, I think he held on as long as he could. I'm surprised. I mean, I did think he would step down earlier, but I think it was a smart move on Adams, especially right now while he's under indictment. And as the indictment came out, it was a smart move for him to keep Timothy Pearson around. If I think they're as thick as thieves as I believe they are. I know what Zornberg said, but I think for Adams, it was the right move for him to stay on as long as he could. But now the chains are starting to break. So I'm curious to see what else comes out. Again, we talked about this 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday. I'm sorry, it was yesterday. Can't even tell what days are anymore. But I think that there is going to be supplemental indictments. I think this is just the first of many. I think this is. I think Damian Williams is playing real. He's playing like a smooth cat right now. I think that there is definitely going to be supplemental indictments. Jay Trinidad made a comment here, said a woman was in charge for your first 18 years of your life. You're right. You're right. We're all raised by a mother. So you're right about that. Women in power. We know we don't mess with our mothers. They're pretty tough. So, John, what do you think, brother?
Yeah, so it's funny. Like I used to deal with a lot of the wise guys, and I would always see who was gonna break. Because I knew that there was one thing that I always noticed about them is if they all came into the precinct making a scene, or with a lawyer and all that, and calling up and wanting to talk to him, I knew that guy wasn't breaking, right? Because he felt supported. And then if that guy was all by himself and he was facing some heavy federal charges, if it was a bull crap, nothing, then they're not breaking, right? Because they don't care. I'm going to spend 2 minutes in jail, and I'll spend the night in central booking, maybe the weekend, and I'll be out. But if there was a serious charge, and nobody came to bat, that guy's talking. And that's kind of why I think Adams didn't take the advice of Lisa Zornberg. He's like, this is serious. I'm not leaving my people out there. So, like I said, like who's a rat? A rat to me is the guy that you do a crime with, and he says, "Oh, it wasn't me. Yeah, I was there, but it was Eric. I was there, I did it, but it was Eric." That's a rat to me. When you see something happening and you call 911, you're not a rat. If I remember that stupid video with Cameron where he was talking about. They asked him when they did that whole Stop Snitching campaign. And I forget who was interviewing him, and he asked them, "Well, what if there was like a pedophile child molester next door that kidnapped kids?" He's like, "Would you call the cops on him?" And he's like, "Nah, I'd probably I'd probably move, but I wouldn't snitch though. And I'm like, what? Are you a moron? What, that's not a rat. Like, you know, you're a rat if you were doing the crimes with him. So I think these guys really are thick as thieves, dude. I think he stuck up for his friend as long as he could. I'm hearing through the grapevine that Hochul now asked Adams to have Pearson resign, and I guess he had him resign instead of fire him or remove him. But I'm assuming that wasn't easy. What do you think? Why do you think Pearson resigned? Obviously, you know, he had the raid on his home. It's alleged that electronics and a substantial amount of cash money was removed from his residence, and I don't begrudge anyone that has cash in the house, by the way. I don't think if you have cash in your house, that means you're a criminal. You know, the guy was making a substantial sum of money. So if he kept a lot of cash around his house, I'm not saying that's the acts of a criminal. So it depends where that money came from.
Yeah, it's, you know, I think that's a fair assessment. I agree because, you know, I worked in the Lower East Side, and you get a combination. There's a big Asian community in the Lower East Side. And a lot of the Asian people that I dealt with, they just didn't trust banks. You know, they came from different parts of Asia. They just didn't trust the system. Mostly those people didn't come from different parts of Asia. They actually, most of them came from China, and they just didn't trust the system in China because it's communism. So they had the same ideology when they were here, and they just kept money in the house. So there are different reasons people do that. For, you know, I do think it's a fair assessment. But when it comes to someone like Timothy Pearson, someone that, you know, is raised in New York City, it is a little bit suspicious when it comes to someone like that. You know, if it comes to someone that is an immigrant, foreign, maybe they came from a communist nation. Unfortunately, America is becoming a communist nation. It does happen. I agree. And, you know, some people, you're going to keep a sum of cash in your house. You know, if you got cash in your walls, I mean, that might be suspicious, but I wouldn't be surprised with these guys. But I am surprised he did resign now. I thought it would be later. That's why, to me, I think you're spot on. It's an indication that he was asked. Just as he was asked by prosecutors to put in an interim PC, I'm sure he was also asked to have Timothy Pearson resign. And I would put my last dollar. I will never know. But I think that this was a conversation with Adams and Pearson. I don't think Pearson just stepped down, and I don't think that Adams just told him to. I think that they had a conversation like, listen, buddy, this is what we have to do right now. I still think they're as thick as thieves. So I think that these three right here, I think if any ties have to be broken, it's right here. I think Banks, Pearson, and Adams, they have the strongest alliance right now. These guys are reigning supreme together.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, they're childhood friends. You know, it's rumored that Reverend Daughtry had groomed all of them. They were friends from South Jamaica, Queens. A lot more people than just these three, by the way. That Reverend Daughtry had groomed all of them to go into the New York City Police Department in order to take over the political structure of New York City. And they achieved just that. So that in itself is a story. Never mind all the corruption scandals and the tall tales and everything else around them. So that in itself is a story, right? That's definitely a New York story. But yet, so Timothy Pearson resigns. He resigns yesterday abruptly amid the corruption investigation. Let's read his resignation letter, and then we'll get into the article. I think I never even got a chance to read it, to be honest with you. I was out. I was busy last night.
And before you read it, Crow Reader asked a great question. I was thinking the same thing. Reverend Daughtry, any relation to cats?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. I don't.
I'm not aware either.
I mean, it's definitely possible, and I had my suspicions, but I mean, I'm not going to lie. I did look it up, and I couldn't find any connection. But I'm sure that there could be a connection, like a second generation down. You know what I mean? So like those are hard to tell. But like an immediate connection, I didn't see. I didn't look long. I looked for like 3 minutes. But from what I saw, I couldn't see that. So, but I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, he's highly taken care of. Wouldn't shock me. I mean, all of these guys have a connection, right? And Kaz has a close personal relationship with them. That is obvious. I mean, they didn't pick him for his competency or for his experience. We could all agree on that, right? So then what's the connection? There has to be a connection. He has the same last name as a Reverend Daughtry, but that's a common name. I actually know a few other Daughtries that are unrelated to Kaz Daughtry. So, it's, I mean, it's possible. I think more, whether he's related to him or not, he's related or friendly or very close family friends with somebody,
I would put money. I heard the name before when it came to this Reverend, and I would put my money that there's no coincidence here because, I mean, me personally, I don't think Daughtry is a common name. I know there are other Daughtries, but I don't think it's a common name, and I think that what are the chances that Reverend Daughtry, has a connection to these guys? They're all from Queens. Kaz Daughtry's from Queens, so I think there's a connection. I would put my last dollar. If I was a bet man, I would say there's a connection. This entire circle just screams of nepotism. Even Tanya Kinsella, her mother has a friendship with Banks. Like everyone in this circle has some form of tribalism here. They're all connected. I would put my last dollar on it. Let's get with this letter.
Yeah. Let's read his letter. Timothy Pearson. So Timothy Pearson writes this. Let me make it big so I can read it. Honorable Eric Adams, Mayor of the City of New York, September 30th, 2024. Dear Mayor Adams, it has been my privilege and honor to serve you and the City of New York for the past 2 years as a senior advisor for public safety and COVID recovery. I wonder if Timothy Pearson's vaccinated. I'm going to make the bet that he's not. I am proud of the work your administration has done for public safety and migrant services. Our accomplishments in these critical areas are a testament to your administration's dedication and commitment to the people of the greatest city in the world. I want to express my gratitude to you for allowing me to return to public service after 30 years of public service in the NYPD and 11 years in the private sector. During my tenure, I played a critical role in ensuring quality assurance for migrant services and security issues, with particular oversight of shelter sites and migrant contracts, with a focus on keeping costs down for the city. I also contributed to advising you on new technology and matters related to the NYPD. I have greatly valued my time as your senior advisor and the work we've accomplished together. As I look ahead to the next chapter of my life, I've decided to focus on family, self-care, and new endeavors. I have decided to resign effective Friday, October 4th, 2024. Thank you, and may our passion, love, and dedication to New Yorkers always be remembered and appreciated. Timothy Crumbs Pearson. He didn't put the crumbs in that.
I think there was a lot of information left out in that letter. I mean, I think I resigned because hey, we're all under a cloud of suspicion here. You're under indictment, Eric. My phones are just taken. Yeah, he left out a lot of information in that letter. Here's another deflection gaslight. Who wrote that letter? Because it sure wasn't Timothy Pearson.
I think he actually. I think this letter was actually had a lot of things on it. Like he played a critical role in ensuring quality assurance for migrant services and security issues. For those of you that don't remember, he's accused of choking a security guard at the shelter, of walking in with an NYPD jacket, refusing. No, I'm sorry. He put the jacket on afterwards. He tried to just walk into a migrant shelter and not identify himself, and security tried to stop him. And then he got so mad, he attacked one of them. And then when the cops came, he attacked another one of them. And the security guards got arrested, and they're suing the city. So he talks about that. He talks about his focus on keeping costs down for the city. It's also rumored that he was selling migrant contracts. It's also rumored that he was giving migrant contracts to his friends, namely people associated with the other member of Crumbs, Philip Banks. And then he goes one step further into, I also contributed to advising you on new technology and matters related to the NYPD. So all of this new technology, all of it it all sounds the same thing. They want to push things further ahead. They want more AI based, alleviate the human element, right? And we saw that both in the NYPD and the FDNY, as well as the schools, and all of those contracts are under federal corruption probe. So I think he kind of, this is kind of, it's not an admission of anything, but there's some guilt in this letter, I think.
Oh, yeah, spot on. Absolutely. It appears to me, I think that Timothy Pearson is almost like, he's almost like the hitman for the crew. I'm not saying they're going out, they're getting bodies. I mean, nothing would surprise me with this administration, but he seems to be the guy that really does the dirty work for Eric Adams. The appearance of it. And Timothy Pearson is just shrouded by cloud suspicion. Like I said, there would have been justification for him to resign at any point. I mean, he has 4 separate sexual allegations that are independent from each other. Now, I do believe in fairness and due process, and especially when it comes to sexual allegations, they're really tough to prove and disprove. But when you have 4 independent sexual allegations, maybe there is some teeth to it. And if not, well, it's definitely reason to step down, because how could you actually do your job properly? That's why I say it's amazing that they have 0 consequence and 0 shame. If you have 4 separate allegations, sexual allegations, how do you do your job properly? How do you even concentrate? And it's quite interesting. The guy that is accused of taking his crumbs is the one that claims that he's saving the city money. Putnam County Crime Analysis with Andrew DiStefano. Love the name, brother. $9.99 to the podcast. Thank you so much. Duty Captain reporting. No excuses. All you have 28s to 9. Or you have 33 for you older guys. 33, I never heard of that. That's interesting. Where's Johnny's show? There was no arrest. The mayor walked into the courthouse. He walked out of the courthouse. I got to be honest, I never even heard of 33, so that must be real old time. 28s, listen, our NYPD people know anyone here that's outside law enforcement, just a regular civilian, 28 is a form to actually get a day off the job, vacation time, or what they call lost time. If you're just taking a couple hours, get deducted from your pay for the day of taking time off. John, what's up, brother?
So Sleepy Joe said I should disable the thumbs up that keep popping up. Please DM me and let me know how to do it, because it annoys the hell out of me and I don't know how to do it. I've been looking for about a year to try. Obviously, either of us are too good with technology. 2 idiots, but we've been doing all right.
What about the balloons? We got to figure that one too.
Balloons, all that. There's like crazy.
It's like your birthday party.
Crazy things happen. Somebody said, "Too bad Chris Farley's dead." I lost a comment, but somebody said, "Too bad Chris Farley's dead because he could have played John Shell in the movie Crumbs."
Right, that's good.
We'll get somebody. Don't worry. We got somebody in mind. Don't worry about it.
Too bad John Goodman lost weight. He would have been a good candidate.
Yeah, absolutely. So, listen, I'm gonna pull up. I'm not even gonna pull that article up. I'm just gonna read it from here. I don't think you guys need to see it anyway. So Adams' confidant steps down amid federal corruption investigations. Few people in city government were closer to Mayor Eric Adams than Tim Pearson, who handled a role in handling migrant shelter contracts. This is a New York Times article by William Rashbaum and Dana Rubenstein. One of Mayor Eric Adams' closest allies and confidants resigned Monday, less than a week after the mayor was indicted on corruption charges, and nearly a month after federal agents seized the aide's phone in a separate corruption inquiry. According to a resignation letter his lawyer said he had sent to the mayor. The aide, Timothy Pearson, had a broad portfolio, including dealing with contracts for migrant shelters and focusing on public safety. He is the 5th senior member of the mayor's administration to announce his departure in the past 3 weeks. In the letter, Pearson thanked the mayor and lauded the administration's accomplishments. I don't need to get into that because we did that. A retired police department inspector, Mr. Pearson is also a defendant in 4 sexual harassment lawsuits filed by subordinates, and he is the subject of 2 separate inquiries by the New York City's Department of Investigation. He was among the several senior administration officials whose phones were seized by federal investigators on September 4th. Some members of the Adams administration had for weeks been pressing for the resignation of Mr. Pearson and others whose phone had been seized. Eric, before we go further in the article, what do you think about five senior advisors to Eric Adams stepping down in 3 weeks? Like, what is that a sign of?
Well, what I'd say, sometimes I tell you, silence is virtue, right? Sometimes it is virtuous to be silent. It comes to a group when you're a good listener, but sometimes silence is a sign of weakness and a sign of guilt. And the silence is definitely, when it comes to this administration, that people are just resigning and they're not talking about the real issues that are going on here. The fact that they're clouded by suspicion. I mean, we have 5 people. Clearly, the city can't be run properly. We have an administration that is just riddled with nepotism. I've been saying it for 2 years, and people say, "Oh, that's crazy." Listen, you're going to put your friends in place, but there is some honor to that, right? You put your friends in place, but you put the right friends. But when you put everyone in place that has some ties to you, has a sketchy past, that's riddled with suspicion, this entire administration is just crumbling. I mean, everyone's coming down. It's not isolated to one advisor. The whole thing's coming down. And that's another indication that Eric Adams should resign. And the fact that he's just standing there, honestly, he makes himself look more like a complete idiot, and he just looks completely narcissistic that he won't resign. I mean, everyone is resigning in your circle. Clearly, you can't run this city properly, right? You can't do it. First of all, you can't do it by yourself, and you weren't doing it anyway because you're too busy partying. But how could you do it now? Everyone's crumbling. Everyone's falling down. How could he actually say that not only is he not going to step down, he's going to step up? How can you step down? Everyone in your administration is resigning. It's all coming down. So you're going to appoint all new people at this point where you have 1.5 years left in your tenure? It's just not feasible. And again, I think that Eric Adams is completely narcissistic. He does not care about the public. He doesn't put others before he puts himself. He's only putting himself at the forefront. He just cares to be reigning, which he said, reigning is to be a king. And, he wants to be a monarch in this. And he also wants to be a monarch. I think he's, his ideology appears to be that, hey, I'll stand here as long as I can. And as long as they try to tear me down, it gives this impression that it's a political witch hunt. But again, look at this administration. I mean, this picture says it all. You're able to make this picture because it's true. This is what we're dealing with. And I think that this administration is by far the worst that we could have for New York City at this point. I mean, everything is coming together. What do we have with this administration? Crime's out of control. We have illegal military age males. We have a huge gap when it comes to the financial crisis. We still have a congestion prices that's creeping up. That's going to be in the talks again. This is our byproduct. This is the outcome when you don't vote the right people in.
So Ron Layson says, I think Tim Pearson left because he has more than the phones being taken / contracts investigation. He has the 4 sexual harassment suits open. He is the worst of the admin in the public's eye. I agree, in the public's eye, because you consistently even hear members of city council, even those who support the mayor, say that how is this guy still working? Like, how is he employed by New York City? I'm going to agree with you. In the public's eye, he is the worst of the worst. In my eye, the guy in the middle, Eric Adams, he is the worst of the worst because he's appointed all of these people. He's allowed all of this to fester. It's amazing to me that he hasn't stepped down. It's, the city is completely rudderless at this point. It's falling apart. We really need some stability. You're not going to get that the minute he resigns. It's going to get up in the air, but there's no stability now. So we might as well attempt to stop the bleeding and move forward and see what we got to do from this point on. Because obviously he can't effectively lead the city, and the case isn't being thrown out, and we'll get into that later on. I know Reverend Al Sharpton is saying that, he stands behind Eric Adams and he shouldn't step down. Yeah, but I don't buy it. I don't believe them. I mean, constantly we saw after the first assassination on Donald Trump's life, We saw the Secret Service director say she's not stepping down. Everyone said she had their full support, full confidence. And what happened? She resigned, right? Same happened over and over again throughout this administration, as well as the most notable one was with the police commissioner, Edward Caban, right? For 2 or 3 days, Adams was saying, yeah, no, he has my full support. And the next thing you know, he gives his resignation. So I think the same thing's going on here. Let's go further into the article. So here's where it gets good. The Times actually did a really good job on reporting this. Mr. Adams hired Mr. Pearson in 2022 as a senior advisor with a $243,000 salary. Even though Mr. Pearson was at the time also working a job at the Queens Casino as its vice president for public safety. In that position, he was earning between $250,000 and $500,000 a year, city records show. So he's possibly earning $750,000, 2 jobs, not one. I don't think anybody else would be able to do that, right? Or have 2 full-time jobs. State law precludes officials employed by conventional city agencies from simultaneously collecting city pensions. As long as you're, I think, past 63, though, you can collect, right? But if you're still working city at that point, you got issues anyway. Maybe you should be able to collect. But Mr. Adams put Mr. Pearson on the city payroll of a city not-run nonprofit, the Economic Development Corporation, which allowed him to also keep the $124,000 police department pension he was collecting. So this dude has 2 jobs, plus is allowed to keep his pension, and he's making about $1 million a year. So if he has the bank withdrawals to match, I mean, him having a large sum of money really isn't too hard for him to have, because you figure, you got to think, I mean, if in his checking account monthly, he's getting over $100,000 from the city of New York, from taxpayers. He's getting over $100,000 a month from city taxpayers. You know, so for him, let's just say he took 2 checks out. Let's just say he took 2 checks out and he has $200K in his house. It's not, it wouldn't be so much a shocker to me if he has the bank receipts to prove it. I just, to me, like, the whole cash thing bothers me, especially with these people making such higher salaries. The more egregious thing to me here is, how is someone making $1 million a year in public safety? How is someone, you're not the police commissioner, you were not a good cop, you did not have a good career. I believe that was shrouded in scandal as well. And then you're making $1 million a year in taxpayer funds. And by the way, let's not pick on Tim Pearson here. This is the grift of public safety. We could talk about Bill Bratton, we could talk about all these guys, And by the way, when you look at the city pensions, when you look at like the police pensions or the fire pensions, it's funny, right? It's supposed to be public information. Go through see-through New York. Go to the top of the police pensions. You're going to notice one thing. Those names are redacted. And you're going to see pensions, people getting $300,000-$400,000 pensions. But their names are redacted. And you're like, wait, why? If this is public information, why is his name redacted? Why don't we know about that?
Yeah, listen, do I think public servants in public service should have a meaningful salary, a meaningful lifestyle? Absolutely, right? You deserve to have a good lifestyle because you're in public service. But it's usually a modest lifestyle. But under Eric Adams, it's become an illustrious lifestyle. I mean, it comes down to greed. And what do we notice? There's always a pattern when it comes to greed. Greed breeds more greed. It's not, people never say, oh, you know what? I had enough. I have $1 million in the bank, or I'm making $1 million a year. I don't need more. Greed breeds more greed. Usually when people are greedy and they have their finger on a substantial amount of money, they just want more. And I think that's what happened with this administration, still going on. Again, with Eric Adams, everything gets circumvented, everything gets manipulated. I think that's another form of corruption. Nepotism is so egregious. Nepotism has led to illustrious salaries. we've seen with this administration, we've seen positions created that are pretty much useless, that didn't exist before under Eric Adams, just to give them an opportunity to make money. And I think we gave a fair assessment too on some of these appointments and some of these positions. I'd say, well, listen, I get it. You would hook up your friend, but you would probably give your friend a position that's meaningful, something that's impactful. Say, hey, yeah, this is my friend, but look at the job that they're doing. And he can't even say that, Eric Adams. I mean, they are just, look at this. They're embarrassing, honestly. These guys are just, they're on the take. I mean, they're just like, they're total thugs. You say it all the time. I agree. I say it too, that we can compare this to John Gotti. Again, these guys are so greedy. How much money do you really need? He's working at Resorts World Casino with a substantial salary. He's got a pension. He's got all these things circumvented, and yet it's not enough, and he still wants his crumbs. And that's what we deal with this administration. They're just so greedy. That's, again, why I'm pretty confident there's going to be supplemental indictments. I don't think this is it. I don't think this is just a target. I think this is just a ploy just to see who moves and who moves in what direction and who starts to talk and what else they start to get on these other phones that they retrieve in the process. So I don't think this is over at all by any stretch of the means.
Yeah, so let's continue going. All right, so we know has 3 salaries. He was collecting 3 salaries on the Eric Adams, 2 jobs, and he was allowed to collect his pension as well. At the time of the hiring, Mr. Pearson's other employer, Resorts World New York City, was seeking support from New York City for a bid to expand its casino operations in Queens. An apparent conflict of interest that City Hall sought to dispel by saying that Mr. Pearson's responsibilities did not touch the casinos. 4 days after the New York Times reported on Mr. Pearson's unusual employment situation, he left the job with the casino. So they had no plan. They weren't going to do anything until someone said something. I mean, so you see here a clear pattern always in the Adams administration where rules do not apply to them. You know, I read an article that everybody was sharing, and it had a real smear on him that he's running like this totalitarian government with the police, and yet the rules don't apply to him. I'm going to say that he's been running a totalitarian city on everyone, not the way the police is, because by all means, the police force is a weakened, diminished version of itself. They're not really highly effective at all. It's all for show. It's, I'm not going to get into it because it'll be an hour rant, but the police department is not what it was. And it's not this totalitarian police department, but it is a totalitarian government when they could tell you what to put in your body, when they're firing you if you're a victim of sexual harassment or sexual assault, when they're retaliating against you if you say a word about anything. They're coming after whistleblowers, they're coming after critics, they're coming after newspaper reporters. So it is a totalitarian government in that way. And yes, they want you to be held to the letter of the law, right? Nobody's above the law, but they're above all. And that's what we're seeing in this administration is they don't follow that. There are no rules. There are nothing. Anything that you know to be true does not apply to anyone in Eric Adams' circle. No rules, no laws, nothing applies to these people. So Mr. Pearson's lawyer, Hugh H. Moe, said in a statement that news reports in recent months contained false and defamatory allegations against his client that were not supported by facts, but he did not single out a specific report or otherwise provide details. Mr. Pearson is committed to clearing his name and is confident that once all the facts have been brought to light, these allegations will be proven to have no merit, the statement said. Mr. Pearson's resignation letter cited his 30 years in the police department and 11 years in the private sector at Resort Worlds. During my tenure, I played a critical role in ensuring quality assurance for migrant services, security issues with particular oversight in shelter sites, and migrant contracts with a focus on keeping costs down for the city. The letter said, I also contributed to advising you on the technology and matters related to the NYPD. Those aspects of his work are under scrutiny as part of the federal investigation that resulted in the seizure of his phones. According to people with knowledge of the matter, he has not been accused of wrongdoing. Mr. Adams declined to comment on Mr. Pearson's resignation during an appearance at Aliento de Vida Church in Queens on Monday night. Later on Monday, his spokesperson, Fabian Levy, issued a statement from Mr. Adams praising Mr. Pearson's long career in both public and private sectors. Mr. Pearson, the statement said, has spent over 30 years keeping New Yorkers safe. We appreciate Tim's decades of service to the city, and we wish him well. After Pearson joined the administration, the mayor never clearly defined what Mr. Pearson's responsibilities were. But subsequent reporting revealed that they included dealing with contracts tied to the housing of migrants at shitty shelters and interacting with the police. Mr. Pearson wielded near absolute control over most discretionary promotions at police department, even though he held no formal role there, according to a lawsuit filed by veteran Deputy Police Chief Matildis Mamara in July. Mr. Mamara was one of 4 subordinates of Mr. Pearson who filed sexual harassment suits against him this year. 3 of those suits, including Mr. Mamara's, were filed by men who said they were appalled by Mr. Pearson's treatment of female colleagues in a small unit overseen by Mr. Pearson. Before we go further, what are you thinking about all of this? What are you thinking about the 4 lawsuits? How does it apply? He has just resigned. Should corporation counsel continue, meaning should the taxpayers continue to fund his legal defense? Or, well, should they? And then do you believe they still will, even though he resigned?
So we spoke about this, right? They should have never indemnified him from day one. He should never have taxpayer-funded legal defense in his case. These are 4 independent sexual allegations that has nothing to do with his employment, has nothing to do with his position. I mean, even if we don't know what his role is, it doesn't matter. There's nothing that indicates that a sexual allegation has some relation to your employment. And I do think that even though he stepped down and resigned, I do think that he'll still continue to get a legal defense, because if he doesn't, that if there is dirt going on behind the curtain, which, I mean, come on, at this point, the preponderance of evidence is there. There's definitely dirt coming on. And if there is, and if he doesn't get that legal defense, Timothy Pearson's going to be, he appears to be a hot-headed type of guy, right? He doesn't have much control. We see it in many aspects. He doesn't have control. He doesn't have that type of character. So if he doesn't get a legal defense, he's going to blow the top on this whole thing. That's my assessment. I see the type of character that he has. Absolutely. I'm sure that agreement was made. Let's expect that he'll continue to get a legal defense, taxpayer-funded legal defense from the city under Eric Adams. Absolutely. Under Eric Adams, everything is riddled. There is absolutely no standard. What's entitled to them is not entitled to others. We have a New York City police officer right now who's suspended for getting an illegal firearm off the street without context. We don't know exactly what happened. We didn't see body camera footage, but it doesn't matter. The point is, he's innocent until proven guilty, also putting his life on the line every day as a New York City police officer at the confines of the South Bronx. And yet Eric Adams and Timothy Pearson have sexual allegations, has nothing to do with their employment, and they get high-paid lawyers. Absolutely ridiculous. What is the standard? I know we've been having this discussion a lot. And John, you were talking about it, and I was talking about it. And I've been getting numerous phone calls, and we're talking about what is the standard that someone should be held to, that cops should be held to this higher standard, even more than politicians. And I happen to disagree with that. I actually think that politicians, when it comes to New York City, maybe in different facets in different counties in this country where elected officials are running in the police department from the people. But when it comes to Mayor Eric Adams in New York City, the politics are much different. Mayor Eric Adams, he is in a leadership position. He appoints, all these appointments are done by Mayor Eric Adams. Banks, Pearson, the upper echelon of the police department. These appointments are done by Mayor Eric Adams. So Eric Adams is responsible. So if we expect them to be held to a higher standard, this administration has to be held to even more of a higher standard. Again, if you're going to lead, you have to do it, and you have to set the example. I never had to tell my people to be on time to work because I was there before time. Set the example.
Yeah. Someone saying that Hugh Moe, who's the lawyer, Pearson's lawyer, he used to be in the NYPD Department Advocate's Office. So, I don't know. Whatever. take that where you will. It's so that's a notable, right? Everyone. So if that's his lawyer though, and now he's private, I'm assuming taxpayers aren't paying for that, but I do believe that any and all courtesies will be extended to anyone in the Adams administration, even if they violate the city charter, right? Even if they violate the city charter, because again, I think that the same thing applies for Eric Adams' sexual harassment suit. There's absolutely no reason why taxpayers should be paying for that. Had nothing to do. No off-duty cop has ever been indemnified for sexually harassing a woman off duty. Never mind 30 years after they were employed and after it happened. It's the craziest stuff I've ever seen. So, all right, let's go further. Mr. Pearson has also been the subject of 2 inquiries by the city's independent Department of Investigation. One has focused on the sexual harassment allegations. The other has examined Mr. Pearson's apparent instigation of a brawl at a Manhattan migrant shelter last fall. After the security guards there asked for Mr. Pearson's identification in keeping with protocol, Mr. Pearson and Mr. Adams, a retired police captain, have been friends for more than 30 years. Mr. Pearson at one point served Mr. Adams' supervisor when he was on the force. And when Mr. Adams was sworn in as mayor at Times Square on January 1st, 2022, Mr. Pearson was one of the handful of friends and family members who stood with him on stage. The mayor has consistently defended Mr. Pearson, arguing that he is an essential element of his administration and deserves due process. Tim, the mayor said in December, is one of my knights at the round table.
Look, it's amazing about this administration because there's a lot of subliminal messaging in what they write. Subliminal messaging in that letter. The letter that we read out yesterday, where they pretty much admit guilt by saying that they should not be probed to this magnitude. We see a lot of subliminal messaging when it comes to this. Yeah, they're as thick as thieves. Absolutely that. He put everyone in his circle in this administration that has close ties. They all have dirt on each other. They're all friends for 30 years. I mean, again, would you put in, John, if you were mayor tomorrow, if I was mayor tomorrow, or one of our friends enlisted here became mayor, are you going to put people that are close to you, people that you trust in certain positions? Absolutely. But those friends are also going to have the skills along with it, and you're going to put people that you have integrity and moral principle, people that are not going to bring shame to you or embarrassment. And all they have brought is shame and embarrassment. Listen, could it happen? If you were mayor or I was mayor tomorrow, could we get frivolous sexual allegations? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? People may take the opportunity to make money, but they're riddled with sexual allegations, 4 independent sexual allegations. Adams has a sexual allegation, and they're making a substantial salary. They should take that burden upon themselves if they want to have funding or they want to get friends to help them out pay it. That's one thing, but to have the city flip that dime, that's absolutely ridiculous. You have to know when you're in this position that you may get frivolous allegations, and you should have high paid legal counsel, but it should be on your own dime, not by the taxpayer of the city. And yet we have police officers in New York City that have to flip their own dime. And we have, this young man right now that was in the paper yesterday, Kenny Victoria, facing 2 separate cases in the Bronx, doing his job. And he has to seek out his own counsel. Could he utilize the PBA attorneys? Yes. But in this case, he chose his own legal counsel. I think you should be able to choose your own legal counsel. But again, it's this administration. Nothing shocks me. I wouldn't be surprised if they got caught stealing red-handed. They would still have the city indemnify them and come up with some legal defense. There is absolutely zero shame when it comes to administration. I honestly, sometimes I envy them that they have zero sense of consequence, zero sense of shame. I mean, if you and I were in this position, even if we were not guilty, we'd probably have our heads down like, embarrassment, just embarrassed that someone actually would accuse you that you did something improper. And there's zero sense of consequence. They've held their heads up even higher, and they're laughing about it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I would I appoint my friends? I mean, I would appoint people I'm friendly with that are highly competent. 100%. I would put people in places that I trusted 100%, but I wouldn't just be putting people that I know are going to cause me problems. You know, we all have friends and we have people around us that, you know, sometimes we stay distance from, right? Because of their own personal whatever demons that they fight, right? Like, oh, you go out with a guy and he's always getting drunk and he's always looking to start fights, right? I'm not hanging out with that dude. You hang out with a guy like oh, you want to go out drinking? Nah, I'm good. You know, I'm good. Nah, I'm good. That's one of those guys that I'm not going to put into a position, regardless of how confident he is, right? Because you know he's going to bring things down on you. Now you got a friend who's always a little touchy feely with girls, and that's what's always been. Or you're going to put that guy into office? No. Now you have a friend who's highly qualified, and he ran during the last federal corruption probe that was another black eye to the NYPD. Am I going to put that guy around me? Absolutely not. I might ask him for advice. I might stay friendly with him behind the scenes, but I'm not going to bend rules and make sure these people are making millions of dollars a year in public funds. And that's what happened. I mean, these people have became rich off of you, right? Look at Eric Adams, for example. He has a police department pension. He's got a pension from the state assembly, right? State Senate, excuse me. He's probably has a pension as the Brooklyn Borough president. Now he's the mayor. He has another. It's 4 pensions. And then everyone's asking, oh, where did all his wealth come from? From taxpayers. It became a grift. Public safety became a grift. You know, so I think when we look at this, I'm not shocked at all that Tim Pearson has resigned. I think he should have been fired. But who's firing him? The same guy that should resign himself? Eric Adams should have resigned weeks ago. He should have resigned way before he got indicted. This is a disgrace, and he shouldn't even have the chance to actually be resigned. Should have been removed by office from the governor. I mean, what's going on is it's I don't even know what they're doing at this point. I really don't know what they're doing. And I really do. I'm a big fan of Donald Trump. I think that we need him in. We need to get him in the White House. But more importantly, when I look at what's going on with Eric Adams, he's making the Democratic Party look like a laughingstock and why they should never hold office anywhere. And I have no idea how Kathy Hochul's allowing him to go on this charade and show that, hey, you know what? Public corruption's okay. Just everybody does it. You know, these were just some courtesies. They're like gifts. They're little perks of the job. You know, I'm shocked that they're allowing him to continue the charade when his entire administration is falling. Eric, do you think we will see another resignation in the coming days? And if so,
who? Absolutely. I definitely think that we'll see a resignation come in a couple of days. And I do think that there is going to be supplemental superseding indictments coming down the pipe. Sergeant Blue 11 actually made that comment earlier. I'm absolutely with you, brother. There's definitely going to be. I'm not exactly sure who's going to step down. I've been thinking about it, but I definitely think we will see people step down. Nighthawk 13666 says civil service racket. Absolutely. I just want people to understand, you know, friends, our listeners to the podcast, and even our trolls and haters. We're not hating on Eric Adams and his administration. We're not saying that you have a right to have a fair salary when you're in public service. Absolutely. I mean, we were in public service. I don't want to be poor. We're entitled to our pensions. But it's a modest lifestyle. Let's be honest, right? If you wanted to be rich, you would go into a Fortune 500 company, some type of corporate, have your own business. It's a modest lifestyle. It's a life of service. But under Eric Adams, it's become an illustrious lifestyle. That they've really facilitated and manipulated the system where it's become extremely lucrative to be in public service, where the taxpayers really making the burden here. I mean, Adams was talking about having a financial fiscal crisis when it came to New York City, and yet these guys are eating like fat rats. So if let me think about that, because I've been trying to think about who's next to step down, and it's gonna come to my mind. As soon as I figure it out, I'm gonna let you know. Well, who do you think?
I'm gonna say like Phil Banks is not far behind. He's gonna have to step down at some point. But for me, it's a toss-up right now between him and Sheena Wright. And the last of the administration too, Ingrid Lewis Martin, who's been with him the longest. So I mean, those are the top 3 to step down. I mean, because those are about the only 3 left in his administration.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are the only 3 left. But if I had to guess, I'm gonna have to say it's Banks. It's Phil Banks. I think he should again, another guy that should have been removed. I mean, every contract, it appears that he's tied to. Every contract in question, he in somehow, some way is a peer. He somehow, some way appears to be involved. So that's just my take. I have no inside information on that. I just think that I think he's next.
I would go with Ingrid. I think Ingrid Lewis Martin's next. That out of those names, I've been thinking about it, and I just think Banks is way too arrogant and too stupid. I mean, especially after his response to Katie Honan, he's just so arrogant in this, and somehow he always comes out unscathed. I mean, as an unindicted co-conspirator, I think it's Ingrid Lewis Martin at this point. And I think she's pretty much admitted guilt. I just don't know how heavily her ties are. Are they as thick as Banks and Timothy Pearson? So I'm going to go with. I'll say she's next. You want to bet on this one?
I'm not in the habit of taking people's money, so I won't, but I will if you want. We were dead wrong about the other thing, so.
Oh, we were dead wrong. I'm just happy I have to shave my beard.
Yeah, we were both dead wrong about that. So
I gotta laugh though. A couple of the comments I saw in here, I never knew that. That's why I love having our friends and listeners here. You got some real all retired guys that retired a long time ago. The UF-33, did you know that is? A couple of guys said here, it's a 28 with a $5 bill. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's all it cost back then was $5 to get a day off. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
We got to change that number right now. It'd probably be like $50 now.
No, yeah. Inflation. So this comes out right when Pearson steps down. Let's see what they got to say. 2 minutes 27 seconds. Here we go.
Breaking right now, City Hall confirming Tim Pearson, a top advisor to Mayor Eric Adams, has resigned.
You may remember the mayor had initially stood behind Pearson, who was accused of sexually harassing female colleagues. His electronic devices were also seized by federal authorities earlier this month. This makes Pearson the latest member of Adams' inner circle to resign.
Yeah, the latest resignation comes on the same day the mayor's lawyers filed a motion to get his bribery charge tossed out.
All right, let's get more on that part of the story from Fox 5's Linda Schmidt, who's live in Corona, Queens, where the mayor spoke at a church. Linda.
That's right. Well, talking about Tim Pearson here first, the mayor has been under pressure for months now to cut ties with Tim Pearson. He is a controversial figure in his administration, but they are longtime friends. But now that the mayor is fighting for his political future and dealing with his own legal battles, Pearson has now resigned. Now, the mayor was at a church here in Corona, Queens tonight, a church that is right here behind us, where he continues to lean on religious leaders and their congregations for support.
So I'm a mayor that has been through a lot. I'm here to help people get through a lot.
Mayor Adams reflecting on his struggles growing up in a poor family. The mayor addressing parishioners at Aliento de Vida Spanish Church in Corona, Queens. This follows a weekend of the mayor making his appeal at churches across the city.
I've done nothing wrong. Time will prove that. And people will look back on this moment and say, we're glad we gave this mayor the opportunity to do the work he's doing.
Earlier in the day, the mayor kicking off his work week with public appearances, from a promotion and graduation ceremony at the sanitation department to an announcement on changes to and investments in New York's water supply. The mayor was in court Friday, indicted on 5 federal criminal charges, alleging he took bribes and illegal campaign contributions from Turkish officials and business people. Today, Adams' lawyer asking a judge to dismiss the bribery charge, saying gratuities and courtesies are not the same as bribery.
Congressmen get upgrades. They get corner suites. They get better tables at restaurants. They get free appetizers. They have their iced tea filled up. That's just what happens.
And by the way, the mayor will be back in court on Wednesday. Back inside to you.
What do you think about that, dude?
I know we say this is the worst administration ever, but this is the best administration ever. I mean, it's hilarious. They can turn anything. I tell you right now, I said it yesterday. They can have a clear glass and tell you it's black. These guys are good. They got themselves a hell of a lawyer. Oh, it's just gratuities. It's just, this is normal. This is not bribery. And the Saturday Night Live skit was on the money. You expect your mayor to go and coach? I mean, it's just a little accommodations. I think this is hilarious. I think the defense is brilliant. And I also think their entire PR campaign, not the upper echelon of the police department, but Mayor Eric Adams is brilliant. Exactly what the reporter just said. He's leading on religious leaders. All of a sudden, every time he speaks now, it's at a church. It's brilliant because he's got full support. He's at a church. The reporters are not going to go crazy at a church and ask too many questions. They're not going to bombard him. It's brilliant. This administration is brilliant. I almost, what, John? I almost wish maybe we get 4 more years because this is comical. This is hysterical. It's unbelievable. This statement by the attorney is amazing. I can't believe it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, someone said that I think he needs a new attorney. I'm going to disagree because I think Eric Adams has tugged on the heartstrings of every low information voter, every low information political talking head. And I think we're all really missing the point, Oh, Jumaane Williams is going to be worse. Okay, so vote better. Oh, Brad Landa could be worse. Oh, the next mayor could be worse. And they're like putting Eric Adams on this pedestal like he is the savior of New York, which is laughable at this point. The dude is completely corrupt. Businessmen in New York City are staying completely silent about the corruption, the obvious corruption scandals going on. Most of our politicians are staying completely silent about it. Why? Because who wants to stop getting paid? Why are you going to say anything? That's why no one's saying anything. So this dude, like this lawyer, Alex Spiro, pushing this narrative that everybody gets upgrades. Everybody takes bribes. They're just little bribes. Not a big deal. What's the big deal? It's kind of a brilliant strategy because what they're doing is they're playing on the public support. And I even see people. I saw a bunch of videos yesterday talking about how what about de Blasio? What about the $850 million in Thrive New York? And I'm like, why does no one care about that? Why do we only care about the $10 million that Adams stole? It's like, really? We're comparing crimes now? I'm sitting there and I'm like, what? That's a great statement. What about it? What happened to the $850 million in Thrive? We don't know. You know why we don't know? Because Eric Adams is the mayor. That's why we don't know. Because the minute I would have stepped into office, I would have had DOI conduct an investigation into Thrive, into the $850 million. But that's not what Eric Adams did. Eric Adams didn't care. Eric Adams didn't care how $850 million went missing when under the de Blasio administration, Thrive, that could be completely unaccounted for. It could be criminal. It could be incompetence. We don't know because there was no investigation done. Why not? Because Eric Adams didn't call for one. Why not? Could be criminal. Could be incompetence. I don't know. But why aren't you putting pressure on the mayor to do that? Why was there no pressure put on? I mean, I was putting pressure on him. When he put out his first year blueprint, I literally went line by line on it, and I was tweeting about it, and I tweeted the exact line, and I remember saying $850 million went missing, and Eric Adams' solution to this is to rename the program and give it $100 million more dollars. Or however much he gave it to him. He funded it more. And like everyone's looking at me like I have 10 heads. I'm crazy. I'm a radical. I mean, it's a fair question, is it not? It's a fair question. Go back, read his first year blueprint. See, they acknowledge in the blueprint that there were problems with Thrive. Oh, there were problems with Thrive. So we renamed it and I gave him more money. What were the problems? We don't know. Right? I mean, so everyone sitting here simping for him is like, it boggles my mind because it always goes back to him, however you play. And the lawyer's strategy is brilliant, I think, because you're playing on low information people. And this is the theme. Like, we should change it from New York City to low information city because that's what it is. That's what it is.
I agree with you. I mean, the theme with this city, with former Mayor Bill de Blasio, is just a loss of taxpayer money. The burden has become on the taxpayer. New York City residents are suffering for it. There's 850 million missing. I agree with you. There should have been a full investigation. That should have been the first order of business, but it wasn't. Just double down and continue on. That's what we see with this administration. They double down on everything. But what do we also see? We see a blatant disrespect for New York City's as Corporation Counsel takes the burden and represents Eric Adams and all these sketchy characters that are around him with numerous sexual allegations. And does anybody realize what this cost? I mean, this high-powered attorney costs about $2,000 an hour. How many hours of work do you think he has to do? Maybe 200 hours worth of work? Do the math. $2,000 times 200. Timothy Pearson has 4 separate independent sexual allegations. If each case he has an attorney that's making $1,000 an hour, and each case takes 100 hours, do the math of what it's costing right now. Because Eric Adams is costing the taxpayer money by having these cases funded by the New York City taxpayer, blatantly right in your face. So could it be worse? That's why I ask people. You know what? I've had these conversations. Oh, it could be way worse. And the reason why they're saying that is because it's very self-serving. And in many cases, I'm hearing this from cops. Oh, with Eric Adams, we get overtime. Eric Adams is not, is putting these cops back to full duty that are modified or they're suspended right away. Well, you think he's doing that because he really cares about you? He's doing that because he has to. You have a diminished police department. He has no other choice. And you're getting overtime because, again, you have a diminished police department, and he has to. That's part of his plan. It's just presence. You're not doing intrusive police work. And how do you have presence? By putting people out there, by more overtime. And it's costing the taxpayer an extreme amount of money under Eric Adams. Why people don't see this, again, is because they're self-serving. What's going on with this administration? Let's say we got Jumaane Williams. And let's say he is worse, right? Maybe he hates cops. Maybe he makes the job, more stringent for cops, whatever the case is. But could he really be worse for the actual New York City taxpayer? If he's not riddled with suspicion and a cloud of shrouded by scandal, and he doesn't have people in his circle that are costing the taxpayer money for independent legal defense funds paid by Corporation Counsel, is it really worse? It might be worse for some people. They may be uncomfortable. Maybe it's not as self-serving. But is it really worse, John? I don't think so. If Jumaane Williams was temporarily the mayor and he's not costing the city thousands and millions of dollars, is it really worse? Not necessarily. Things may get worse in some aspects, but in that aspect, we're already in the step in the right direction. It would be better far off than it is right now.
Yeah. So he says that, everyone receives gratuities. Every congressman, they get iced tea poured. They get free upgrades. Everybody gets that. No big deal. Yeah. So what? So let's read the law. So this is New York Penal Law 200.35, right? A public servant, Eric Adams, a police officer, an EMT, sanitation worker, whatever. Teacher, whatever you want to say, a public servant is guilty of receiving unlawful gratuities when he solicits, accepts, or agrees to accept any benefit for having engaged in official conduct which he was required or authorized to perform and for which he was not entitled to any special or additional compensation. Receiving unlawful gratuities is a Class A misdemeanor. So he's at least guilty of this. You're guilty of receiving unlawful gratuities. So let's put this into context. How am I receiving unlawful gratuities? If there is a coffee shop that is having a parking condition in front of their restaurant, or in front of their coffee shop, whatever, and I go there and do my job because he complains, and I remove all the vehicles like I'm supposed to. And he says, here's this free cup of coffee. Thank you for taking care of that situation. That was something you were required to do and what you're being paid to do by the city of New York. You cannot take anything to engage in your official business. And that's exactly what Eric Adams was doing. And not only did he take first class trips and fancy restaurants, which he does all the time, right? Because I think Sal Greco was on a tear for a while showing all the fancy restaurants he was eating at. And he kept saying, who's paying for it? I know it's not him, you know? And so those are all unlawful gratuities. So he's at unlawful gratuity times 8 million probably in the last 2.5 years. But then it's being alleged that not only did he do that 8 million times, but on top of that, he took gifts and gratuities for things so that he would circumvent the law for people. And that, my friends, is called bribery.
Yeah. You know what, John? I think you're missing the point, though. And the point is, he didn't get a free cup of coffee. He got nice accommodations because what do we learn in the police department? A free cup of coffee leads to corruption. He didn't do that. He got a free cup of coffee. He got illustrious flights. He got illustrious hotels. That's okay. That's okay because it's Eric Adams. You know, if a police officer did that, it'd be a whole other ball of wax. But because it's Eric Adams, it's okay. This exactly is your mere image of what a clear case of bribery is and unlawful gratuities. This spells it out completely, absolutely. Everything Eric Adams did, especially when it comes to circumventing a fire inspection for the Turkish to have an establishment open. Absolutely, this is far egregious. And again, this goes back to what we were saying yesterday, and we've been saying for the past week, that people have this ideology that there is a threshold for corruption. I don't buy it. I don't think there should be any threshold for corruption because just as we learned in the police department, a free cup of coffee is the gateway to an opportunity to far more corruption. So if we allow bribery and we allow unlawful gratuities, it's a gateway for far more corruption that we see and potentially what we may see in supplemental superseding indictments coming along in this administration. I think this is the first of many. This absolutely spells out bribery. Again, but I think it's brilliant. I think his lawyer is admitting an admission of guilt, but just trying to play it down and get him a lesser charge. I think that's what ultimately they're trying to play out. They know he's guilty. Try to get this into the actual local level court. Get this out of the hands of the feds. That's the only thing. They know that he's guilty, and hopefully get him some type of discharge because it's not going to get dismissed. I don't think it's getting dismissed by any stretch of the means. What do you think? Do you think it's going to get dismissed? Because I don't think so.
No, I don't think. I don't think that they're. Like I said, I think it's good at building public support of low information people, and I think Eric Adams is brilliant at that. And I don't think it has a basis in law. It's like, yeah, so what? Yeah, of course we violated those laws. Everybody does it. I don't think that's going to be a good argument to get your case, the investigation, the indictment dismissed. So absolutely not. I don't, 100%. But depending the jury or the judge, I don't know what this trial is going to be. If it's going to be a jury or a jury trial, but depending on that, it could be a good defense.
I agree. That's why I said this is brilliant. I think this is brilliant at the point that it is a good defense to say, yeah, well, my client admits to having these accommodations, but what do you need for not unlawful gratuities? Unlawful gratuities is a standalone crime, right? But for bribery, what do you need? You need to accept accommodations for a benefit. So the argument, I think that's where the defense is going to be. Yes, my client received accommodations, and they had, these illustrious hotels and food, but that was out of the kindness of the Turkish government. That wasn't for any political or financial benefit for my client. And that's where I think the defense is going. That's where I think they're saying, listen, yeah, he did take these gratuities, and many others do as a perk. They're almost making the comparison of a police officer utilizing PBA cards or something like that. Someone getting a perk, someone getting pulled over and not getting a summons. And this is not that at all. But I do think the defense is brilliant, and I do think they're paving the way for that. to fight the bribery charge. Say, yes, my client did have gratuities. My client did have illustrious accommodations, but there was no political or financial benefit because that's a two-pronged system. You need the actual service or you need the goods along with the benefit.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. And we have it, right? They have both of that. It's not like, oh, I have a rich friend and I was flying on his jet and he did all these things and, oh, I'm not guilty of anything. It's like, okay, my friend's rich, so what the hell do you want me to do? You know, like I'm not supposed, I can't hang out with him. It's not, I didn't do anything for him. I'm just hanging out with the dude. Like, you know what I mean? He's flying me here, he's flying me there. I don't know. Maybe he's, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's Diddy and he's got a crush on you. I don't know. Yeah, no, I agree. The other thing that they noted in there is that he had this power over the discretionary promotion process in the NYPD. We heard a lot of complaining about the promotion process. We heard a lot about that it was nepotism, that nobody of competence was getting promoted, no one that would deserve to get promoted was getting promoted. And then allegations have came out in the media that they were selling promotions. I'm going to be the first to say that I've always seen horrific promotions. I think under this administration, they're the worst I've ever seen. They're the worst I've ever seen. And, you know, but like, what do you think about that? But at least I think, I believe anyway, that those promotions were being done by someone internally in the NYPD. What do you think about Tim Pearson having a say over NYPD promotions when he wasn't even in the NYPD?
Oh, 100%. I think there's teeth to it. I mean, I heard some grumblings around, but we could see it. We see, and I think it really, the nexus and the correlations to the fraternal organizations. I think the fraternal organizations are at the forefront of these transfers and these promotions. I definitely think that there's people receiving benefits. I mean, you see the promotion list every time it comes out. And especially when it comes to Hispanic society, I've never seen so many Hispanic names getting promoted. Do I have an issue with Hispanics getting promoted? Not at all. But I see the same correlation. Hispanic member promoted, Hispanic member in the Hispanic society, connection to Ed Caban. Who does Ed Caban have a connection to? Eric Adams and Tim Pearson. I absolutely think there's some teeth to this. I think it's disgusting. I mean, and what do we see? I said this a long time ago. You're going to see the fraternal organizations start to rival each other and compete with each other to seize the opportunity to have their members promoted. We didn't have Juan Perez getting Man of the Year. We didn't have Kenny Victoria getting Man of the Year. We didn't have Sal Provenzano. We didn't have the police officers that were victimized by this justice system that's attacking police officers as Man of the Year. We had Eric Adams as Man of the Year. Ed Caban is Man of the Year. Why? Because the fraternal organizations seize the opportunity because it's beneficial to their members. I mean, even a video had surfaced, which was hysterical, when Ed Caban resigned, about the Hispanic society. What are they going to do now that they're on their own? It's shameful. It's absolutely disgusting. I definitely think that people are receiving benefits to have those particular people get promoted when it comes to special assignment pay. I think Patrick Gordon from the NYPD Guard Association is trying to get himself special assignment pay by aligning himself with Eric Adams and attacking this podcast, trying to say that we're racist. It's absolutely disgusting. Same thing with Victoria Perry from Noble. They're low information people. These people are disgusting and they shame the shield too. Embarrassment.
Yeah, crazy. So just to switch up just a little bit, but it's really on topic. Former NYPD Police Commissioner Keechan Sewell all smiles during Mets locker room celebration amid City Hall scandal. Let's just talk about her a little bit. Would you see her right here? She's in between the Mets players. If you could see her right in between the reporter and the Mets player, she's right in the middle, right there.
It's not coming up. You have it?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for that. So if you see in between the player and the reporter, there is Keechan Sewell. She's there in a Mets hat. Appears to be taking a picture. Now that all this has came out, what's your thoughts around Sewell's abrupt resignation?
Well, I would put my money on it. We both said, I mean, we never saw her potential. We never saw her abilities or capabilities. We did see a great presence. I thought she had a very professional presence. I thought she exuberated potential leadership. I think she carried herself extremely well. And with her abrupt resignation, I would put my money that she's been in constant contact with the feds. Do I know that for a fact? Absolutely not. But I would put my money on it. It appears to be that way, and there's no other fair reason for it. She never came out and identified her reasons for leaving, and it just appears to make sense. I mean, I don't believe in any coincidences, and I think that's the reason why. Crazy 107 $9.99 to the podcast. Thank you so much, Crazy 107. You always dip into your pocket. We really appreciate it. What looked exactly? The fact that when we were on the job, we knew that all these guys around him were openly corrupt. And if anyone spoke out, we'd be buried because the top was scared of racism. You're absolutely right. Racism is always the weapon to keep people in silence, to hush them. Right? That was the ideology, and that was the propaganda and the full court blitz that was brought on this podcast. Full court blitz from this podcast. On this podcast from the NYPD Guardian Association that is buttoning up and bootlicking to Eric Adams for their own opportunities, and also Victoria Perry with Noble. Shame on you. Your embarrassment. Came after this podcast, said we were racist, and we threw it right back at them with our racist memes because, yes, they are racist because they came from Eric Adams' mouth himself. So you're absolutely right. They try to cut silence. They try to create silence with racism or propaganda of racism. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm telling you, man, I really think that she saw some nefarious stuff in the NYPD and she didn't want to be a part of it. That's just my take on it. She abruptly left. We had no idea why. I think she knew what these guys were up to, and she got herself out of there and said, I can't be around this. I believe she's a person of integrity. And then that shows who really isn't a person of integrity, right? Because once you see, you can't unsee, right? So, I don't know. And then, everyone's like, oh, was Kemper's retirement very convenient on the timing? It was very convenient. And it's definitely leaves question marks in my head. But I think all the allegations that we're seeing, to me, the people that I would be focused in on the people that were running around on the streets in New York, especially in the night hours while the enforcement were going on, during the night hours, and the people that had direct access to these contracts. I think those are the people, and I don't know that he was or was not involved in either of those, but I don't believe that he got his phones or electronics seized or his home raided either. And I don't believe that's true of anyone else in that administration. So, that sits in my head. But yeah, I'm thinking I'm seeing her there, and I'm saying, and I said it before, I think that she left because there were some things that she saw that she just was not okay with in this administration. And she figured that it was only a matter of time before this administration was going to go down, because it never made sense. It still doesn't make sense. Again, I believe she knew the role she was going to play in the New York City Police Department and that Phil Banks was going to be in charge. I don't believe for a second that she wasn't told that right off the bat. I don't believe, because Danielle Outlaw said it right away. I'm not, if I'm going to be the police commissioner, I'm going to be the police commissioner. I'm not listening to somebody else, so I think she knew exactly what she was going for. And I don't think that would, her not having the power, I don't think was why she left. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree also, because I think that she seems to be an intelligent lady. She's pretty smart. So she knew coming into this administration that it's going to be a struggle. She is the first female police commissioner. She comes from a much smaller police department in Nassau County. So I'm sure she understood that there would be a transition period, that at some point maybe she would be given the reins, but I'm sure she understood that it would take time especially transition from a small police department to this. So I don't see that as the problem. I definitely think that may have been a contributing factor, but I don't see that enough for her to resign because she understood she's to the largest police department in the entire world. Coming from Nassau County, there is going to be a transition period until they give you the full reins. And that you're coming in with Banks and Pearson. She had full knowledge of that. And she also, and I think also, she wasn't in the same position, high profile, like Carmen Best, right? Carmen Best immediately turned it down because she knew she would not be in charge. But I think she also understood this is a great opportunity. Even if she's not in charge, this would be a great stepping stone. So I don't see that as the reason for her to leave. Absolutely not. I agree. I think she saw some nefarious stuff. And how sad is that? It's really sad because here she comes from Nassau County, a smaller police department, and she's getting to go to the iconic New York City Police Department. She's going to be the first female Black police commissioner. And what an embarrassment of what she had to see in this police department, in this upper echelon, the leadership, and under Eric Adams. What an embarrassment. I mean, her impression of the NYPD must be completely distorted from what the impression was before she entered the police department. So how sad is that? I think it really is sad. And I hope that she is sitting there smiling that she's no longer connected to the police department in this administration. So I tell you what, you go, girl. Good job.
If you're cooperating. If you're not, I'm not going to say good job. So we got 780 people on here and all different platforms. If you guys could just do us a favor, like, subscribe wherever you are. If you're on Twitter, if you could do me a favor, if you could just like the video and if you could share it. We've been my Twitter consistently. It's the weirdest thing. It just consistently goes down. It just doesn't. I don't understand. Like I'll post one thing, it'll get 100,000 views. I'll post these videos. They never ever crack a few hundred. I don't understand it. I don't understand why they will in the days coming, but never while it's live. It bothers me. I just I don't know. Fix it, Elon Musk. Stop the shadow banning. Stop the shadow banning, my friend. I don't want to kill this kid's name, but I don't really care because he doesn't matter. Reynoso, who is, I think it's Adriano Reynoso, whatever. This kid is the Brooklyn Borough president. He took over after Adams took over, right? So this kid's the Brooklyn Borough president. And let's look to what he says on Dan Mammarino. Now all of a sudden Dan Mammarino is doing reporting. I don't know. I thought he was like viral news where he was just like a sycophant account, but I guess when the tide turned, he grabbed the life jacket and got on the life raft and got off that ship. Viral news still hasn't got the message. Viral news, if you're listening, there's more life jackets. There are more life rafts. The Titanic is going down. There is no need for you to go down playing the violin for this administration. Redemption is a quality we all need. So here it is. Let's listen to the current Brooklyn Borough president, the person who stepped up for Eric Adams after he became the mayor. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Which I've met many different countries or delegates from different countries. They come and they want to make sure we celebrate their people. But in that conversation with Turkey, they invited me out to Turkey. I said I would go on vacation and see if I bump into them and give them a call. They said, no, we can take care of everything. And it's just not something I know, being in the city council, how complicated it is to travel internationally and have COIB or the Conflict of Interest Board go through a ton of work to make sure that that's done the right way. So
they offered to pay for your trip.
They offered, yes. They said that they would take care of it. Wow. And then the second one was I got gifted 8 tea sets, elaborate porcelain gold-plated tea sets. And they said for you and your staff. Obviously, my general counsel took that and returned it to the consulate. But those are just things that a consulate should know they shouldn't be doing with elected officials here in New York. And they weren't privy to that information because they tried to give me those gifts.
Did you disclose that information to prosecutors?
Well, yes, we have everything we have. We've given to if the FBI asks for it, we give it to them. But we have also documentation and just a track record on how we handled those situations. At that point, we didn't know there was any of this stuff happening, but it was an unusual visit is what I call it.
Did they make you aware of what they had given to the mayor?
They had mentioned that the mayor's traveled to Turkey before and that they said, we want you to travel as well. That there was Istanbul is the Brooklyn of New York City and so forth.
But did you ever feel like during those conversations with the T-sets and those things that it was to curry a favor as Brooklyn Borough President? Because for those who don't know, the Brooklyn Borough President can greenlight projects that take place, right? So did you ever feel, or looking back on it, say, well, maybe they wanted to curry favors?
I think looking back, I definitely thought it was an intro into building a good relationship with me through gifts and so forth. While I was there, I just thought they were ignorant to the process, or they just didn't know. It's like, you can't do this. This is not the way we do things. Now, looking at everything, they knew very well what they can or can't do, but it seems like the mayor's office gave them an opportunity in the past, and they try to take that with me as well, which I've meant.
What do you think about that, Eric?
I think that he's trying not to bury the mayor, but at the same time saying, like, well, listen, this stuff is a no-no. I'm not getting involved in this. I'm not putting my hands on this. You're not supposed to do this when you're in politics. He addressed what the mayor's doing, but at the same time, he didn't want to bury the mayor too much, kind of like not snitching. But he's like, if the mayor's doing it, I'm sure there's a good reason for it. That's kind of like what I see he's saying, but he's saying that not something I want to be in. They made these offers. He admits also that the Turkish government knows what they're doing. These rich Turkish people are not just doing it because they're ignorant to the process. They know that there's a benefit. So this spells out exactly what we've been talking about. With bribery, there has to be a benefit. So he admits that, hey, they know that if they give these illustrious accommodations, that along with it, they get a benefit. And what does that equal? The two-pronged system for bribery.
See, I think the other way, people call this dry snitching. I think that I think he absolutely buried Adams in here. He literally said, I think I know they knew what they were doing. I just thought they didn't know our process, but I think they knew what they were doing. He said, but that door was opened up by the mayor's office. So he basically says he's taking bribes and he should have known, and so they thought we were going to have that same relationship. If you listen to the end of it, right at the end, he says it. He's right at the end. He says, I thought the Turkish consulate didn't know what they were doing, but now looking at this, they knew exactly what they were doing. But that door was opened by Eric Adams is basically what he said in that administration. So I think that's a real eye opener, dude, because you have the guy that stepped into place now saying that, these embassies thought he was going to play ball. So I guess he wouldn't have been in a Turkish movie that got us pulled down yesterday either. So he wouldn't be in that Turkish movie. I wonder how much, if any, Eric Adams got paid for it, where they did it in front of Brooklyn Borough Hall. It's another unlawful gratuity, by the way. And then he says there they gave him these gold-plated gift sets for him and his staffers, and he instantly returned them. And that, I think, those aren't what he was worried about, right? Though that was just the opening the door that you're willing to take gifts. You're willing to take gifts, and God only knows the things that are unaccounted for that you'll be given, right? And that's what that tea set was. That tea set was here you go, take these tea sets, and now we know you're going to play ball, and we'll continue to give you gifts and whatever else you want or need. And so this way, whatever we need, we just come to you and you help us get it done. Just like
I agree with that. I agree with that. I actually think that's on parallel with how some correction officers actually become corrupt in the process, right? So what happens in this case? Hold on a second. But what happens in this case, right? When they offer, that's kind of like the precursor to more corrupted gifts, right? When they offer these gold plates, I also think it's like, hey, we got you. Once you accept that gift, right? Now we got you because you did take an unlawful gratuity. You did take a bribe. So you know what? If you don't do the next bribe that we need, we'll blow the whistle on you. And I think that's why I say it's on parallel with a correction officer, right? If a correction officer, starts to, let's say he's working in a housing unit, it's a dangerous housing unit, and for his own safety, let's say, he brings in some cigarettes. The guy says, just, bring cigarettes and I'll make sure everybody leaves you alone. So you bring in cigarettes. But now they got you. You already brought something in for us. So if we blow the whistle on you, you're fucked. So you know what? Now when we tell you to bring drugs in, now you got to bring drugs in. We tell you to bring money in, you got to bring money in. So I kind of think it's on the same wavelength. Like, listen, you take this gift, we got you.
Yeah, and then everyone's saying Reynoso should be Brooklyn Borough President, Mayor. Absolutely not. So there was so just so we're aware, he's the Brooklyn Borough President. There was a mass shooting on a parade route in Labor Day, and Reynoso must have been too busy to even make a public statement about it. He didn't even take a position on it. So, I mean, this guy's, Eric Adams brought back a lot of things. He brought back squeegee men to New York City. He brought back a corrupt New York City Police Department, right? And he brought in, which we never had, mass shootings on a parade route. But the way that we went back in time, it's absolutely it's a highlight and failure. I mean, that's what it is. It's a highlight and failure of what this guy have done. He's brought us back so far. It's not even funny. It really isn't. New York City is a shell, and we have no one to blame, honestly. Yeah, is it him? Yeah, but ultimately, it's the voters in New York City.
I don't see this guy as the mayor of New York City. Look, he's a young guy. He's like 41, 42 years old. I think he's got plenty of time to go. I don't see him in that leadership position. First of all, he's been quiet on a lot of things. He doesn't speak out when it comes to a lot of issues. I'd like to hear more from him, see if he does have a leadership style. But he's not the guy that comes to mind on leading the city, and unfortunately, Andrew Cuomo was at the forefront. He's not someone I want to be mayor either. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's a huge contributing factor to losing when I lost my father. My father was in a nursing home. So, we're up shit's creek right now on getting the next mayor, but Mayor Eric Adams isn't it either. So again, it has to get worse before it gets better. We have to recognize the fact that Mayor Eric Adams won the primary with 400,000 votes. That is not even 10% of New York City. We need people to see that it gets so bad that it becomes a duty. We need to make it. It has to be pride in that. I think we can have a community stronghold when we have to start putting pressure on each other to say, hey, you got to get out there and vote. We shouldn't be asking neighbors who you voted for, but we should say, hey, did you go out and vote today? It has to be, when I was spent a lot of time in Asia. When I was in Bali, they have a day where the whole entire city is quiet. It's called NYPD. And everyone is quiet the entire day. There's no street lights. You can't be outside. It's just a day of reflection. Everyone's quiet. If they can make an entire community be quiet, we can make an entire community go out and vote. 400,000 votes is absolutely ridiculous.
So just before we get off this, we go into some police issues. We'll get off public corruption. I think that's enough of public corruption. These guys are all dirty. I think they should all be getting perp walk with handcuffs at this point. I don't want the indictments without the arrests. Cops are arrested. They should get the same. They should get the same treatment. This is absolutely disgraceful and disgusting. And to acknowledge this and say, who cares? No big deal. Did Reynoso report those in real time? Someone's asking. Great question. I doubt it. I doubt it. I think after the scandal broke, he was like, oh, shit, we better tell somebody about that. I doubt he did. But let's see. I don't know. I don't have anything. But before we get off this, let's just look at Tim Pearson's lawyer. And it's an article. This is coming in from E-Man Street PhD, right? How Manhattan got its first Chinese deputy police commissioner. Hugh H. Moe. This is Tim Pearson's lawyer. Hugh H. Moe's journey from an immigrant from childhood in Chinatown to the highest ranking Chinese American in New York State's law enforcement. Hugh Moe, son of legal professionals in Shanghai, came to America at the age of 9. Growing up in New York City's Chinatown, Moe witnessed the lowly status of the Chinese American community. He realized the power that law brought to minority groups as they fought to make their voices heard. Moe spent 12 years of his 4-decade career in law enforcement before moving into private legal practice. He was the first Chinese American to join the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and to hold the position of New York Deputy Police Commissioner. Now, one of New York's leading lawyers, Hugh H. Moe, draws on 40 years of experience to help Chinese people in the U.S. seek justice and pursue their business interests. So that is Tim Pearson's lawyer, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you for sending that in.
You know, before we talk about that lawyer, I just want to go back when we were talking about Reynoso. Like I said, he was very revealing, but I don't think he was slamming Eric Adams either, willing to stand up and say, hey, you know, this is what these guys doing. He was kind of saying like, you know, maybe you should look over there. You know, that's the way I took his conversation. You know, he's saying, I wouldn't do it. Looks like he opened the door for that. I would look over there. I'm not sure what he's doing with it. But when it comes to Timothy Pearson, it's quite interesting when it comes to this this lawyer. I wonder if there's any connection to CCP. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it, but it's interesting that apparently he has ties also to the trial room, which I didn't even know about. System Unfiltered, which you know, says Hugh Moe is a sellout and he wouldn't help me with my case. Yeah, I don't know anything about him. You have any information on Hugh Moe? I don't know anything about it. I got to do my research on it.
I mean, that was it. That's what I got on him. I just read his background, and that's it. You know. So apparently, Eric Adams. One more thing. This is coming in from Dave Savella. Thanks for sending this in. Appreciate it. This is Eric Adams. Apparently, he was at a church when Tim Pearson submitted his resignation letter. So he's going. Oh, this looks like the same church. This looks like the same church he was at. Let's see what this video is. This is Katie Honan put this out.
Tal vez estás tratando con falta de comida en tu casa. You may be navigating the challenges that we all face every day. Tal vez estás enfrentando los retos que todos enfrentamos. But God is in charge. Pero Dios está en control, mis hermanos. Keep your faith. Mantén tu fe. Keep your eye towards the prize. Mantén tu fe y tus ojos. Tal vez estás.
Very blasphemous, people. You know, God's in charge. He says that. But he says, keep your eye on the prize. Any of you that are members of the Catholic faith, seek first the kingdom of God, right? That's what we're always told. Seek first the kingdom of God. He doesn't say that. He says, keep your eye on the prize. He's talking about self-serving. Keep your eyes on what you want, right? But we're taught to be humble. We're taught to not want, right? We're taught to whatever it is in God's will, that's what it'll be. And that's what we're taught. Seek first the kingdom of God, not keeping our eyes on the prize. Eric Adams, every time he gets on the pulpit, you understand the narcissist that he is, the megalomaniac that he is. He cannot help but speak of himself in the third person. He could not speak of his own trials and tribulations, and he could not help but compare himself to biblical and historical figures in history because he is such a narcissist. And, you know, it's true of many people in the public eye throughout all of history. I mean, they thought higher of themselves. They thought they had a calling. I just think a lot more people that did that had a lot more integrity than he did. But it's blasphemous, man. Watching him, these things really bother me. It bothers me seeing him. And what bothers me more is not him on the stand, because he's just a narcissist maniac. So he's gonna just say whatever platform you give him. But it bothers me that the church is empowering this and helping the charade go along. That bothers me more than him doing it.
Listen, I'm not a religious person. I talk about this all the time. You know, I'm Jewish. I had a bar mitzvah and stuff, but you know, I don't really practice going to temple. I'm reading a lot about Buddhism. I got into Buddhism. I love the spiritual ideology behind it, but I don't like seeing Mayor Eric Adams use the church for his own benefit, and he's created the church as his own monarch. And I think it's insulting to the religion. I think it's insulting to religion in general. I mean, the church should be a sacred thing where we leave the politics out of it. But he's utilized and used the church to perpetuate his political witch hunt, or his belief on this political witch hunt, or he wants people to believe this political witch hunt by utilizing, weaponizing the church. I think it's really sad and it's embarrassing. I think it's insulting. And again, it's brilliant on his part because it also gets the reporters to kind of back off him. I mean, every speech he's doing lately is from a church, and he's using these people and using the sacred harmonial temple of the church to perpetuate this political witch hunt. I think and treat it as his monarch. He talks about not resigning, reigning. He believes, not only does he believe he's the king of the city, I believe he thinks he's the king of the church also. And I really think it's insulting to the church, and I can't believe these people are buying it. I mean, they're just feeding into it. And I just think it's they're vulnerable at that point. They're at church. It's their place of religious thought and spiritual ideology, and he's intercepting that with his narcissistic manipulation. Honestly, I think it's completely insulting. It's disgusting on his part.
Yeah, I mean, so I do think the church should be political because, again, I think politics are life. I think that the church should instill its values in public legislation. I don't think it should necessarily try to push a narrative one way or the other than this policy aligns with our beliefs or it doesn't. This person aligns with our beliefs or they do not. So I think, and like when you go back and you look at the church, it really is like Jesus really was saying that, like, you're not a church. Like, he was really saying, you're my Senate. So I think, when it comes to my biggest knock on especially the Roman Catholic Church is they stay vanilla on all the issues because they hide behind, we're a 501c3, so we can't speak on any political matters. Although we had a church come out and endorse Kamala Harris, which is in direct violation of the 501c status, which, helps them get other grants and things of that nature. I think the church by itself is a tax-free organization, regardless of your 501c status. But they hide behind that to not be political. And then when it's convenient in times of power, they won't. They'll come out of their face and talk politics. But I think, but as much as I think that they should be involved in the politics, we shouldn't have public officials preaching on us. Like, 100% not. Like, they have a big enough pulpit already to preach on. I don't think they need to be in church. And to me, it's just in good old typical political fashion, baby kissing, going after the elderly, going after the grandmas. I'll never forget, I was at an event and I was with my wife and my kids, and I seen Max Rose, and he was the congressman at the time and he was running again. And I watched him. I'm very observant. I know my surroundings good. So I'm watching him. I'm having a conversation with like 4 other people, but I'm watching him. I'm watching what he's doing. And he's walking around and he's going up to every old lady, every old person, right? And he avoided me like the plague, right? He introduced himself to everybody, but he did not introduce himself to people who he thought, I'm going to avoid this. I'm going to go for the people that I know aren't going to be any type combative with me, or the people that I could have easy conversations with. Old people, young children, right? They're baby kissers. This is what Adam's doing. So I'm not saying that we can't have him there and say, thanks to the mayor, regardless if he's on the corruption scandal or not, because we're all sinners and we've all made mistakes, and the church is there for redemption, right? So I know they're having a prayer on the steps of City Hall today. I may be there, may not be there. We'll see. Like I said, I've prayed for Eric Adams myself. I've prayed for him for different reasons. I don't pray that I hope he goes to jail or I hope he loses power. I don't do that. I just pray that I hope he changes his ways. I hope that he puts people back to work, like Marlon Bethel, like the numerous teachers and firefighters. I don't even ask for myself because honestly, I don't want to work for the man. I don't want to be under his administration. But I pray that he changes his way. I pray that he leads New York City right. I wouldn't go on the steps of City Hall and pray that he is exempted from a criminal prosecution. I mean, that's the ultimate. It's blasphemous, dude. It's completely blasphemous. I'll pray for his soul. I'll pray that he's redeemed. I'll pray that if he's innocent, he comes out that he's innocent. I don't believe that's the case, but you know, if that's what it is, you know, then I hope that he's exonerated of all charges.
So Joe Mangler says, John and Eric, do you guys think the church is also a form of him thinking he's repenting? So I don't think in any way, shape, or form Eric Adams has the ability to actually repent. I don't think he shows any remorse. I don't think he shows any remorse at all. I think what he's doing is he's trying to infect the church with his ideology. So, John, I understand what you're saying. I agree. I think the values of religion, whatever church or whatever God you choose to pick, you know, everyone has a right to what they believe, but I do believe those values should intercept on political ideology and also policy and law, right? Because we want good values. But I don't think it should intertwine the other way. I don't think the political pundits should intercept when it comes to church. You know, Cynthia Beale says, what did Benjamin Franklin say? Politics and religion are the last refuge of a scoundrel. I agree. I think that the church should be a sacred place where we don't bring our politics to the church. We're going to bring the church to politics, right? Because we want to bring the values. But I don't think we should bring the politics to the church. At church, it should be a sacred place. And I think that's where Eric Adams is completely narcissistic, where he doesn't even care about the sanctity of the church. He's there to perpetuate his own ideas. He's there to get the church people on his side, right? Because what happens? You're at one church, they're on your side, and they talk to the other church, and he wants all these people to be on his side to defend him, right? And also gives the appearance that he's some type of martyr and he cares about people. He's doing all these speeches from the church. I think it's completely narcissistic. I think it's completely self-serving. And I think these are great comments. I don't see him repenting in any way. I don't see him having any remorse. I think he's saying, like, look, it's okay. I did this. It's no big deal. I'm your mayor. I should have these illustrious commendations. I'm serving you. That's what he's saying. And he's saying they're after me right now because they don't agree with my politics. They don't agree because I was fighting for you. There's a threshold for all of us. But because I was fighting for you and I went against the grain, now they're attacking me. And I have to utilize the church to get my message out there. So, Rafael Martinez, thank you so much. You always donate to the podcast. I can't thank you enough. Great friend to Pocket. God bless you. I really appreciate it. Good morning, John and Eric. Keep up the good work. I salute you too, brother. I salute all our friends and listeners here. You know, Cynthia Beale, I just want to say that's a great comment, really. Politics and religion are the last refuge of a scoundrel. I think you're right. So, John, what are your thoughts on that on that comment about him repenting at church?
Oh, I agree with you, man. The dude is like he's a narcissist. He really is, you know. And I don't think he has the ability. So, like, I think people should pray for him. I do, because he needs it 100%. So I'm not against anybody that prays for him at all. I'm against if you're praying for him for the right reasons, right? You know, and people were telling me, pray to God Eric Adams doesn't resign. Pray to God he doesn't get convicted. And I'm like, I don't pray to God for things for myself like that. I pray for totally different things. I was like, I'm not praying for that. What are you, out of your mind? Like, I'm not praying for that. Like, if he's innocent, I'll pray that I hope he's innocent. Like, you know, I hope he repents. I hope he changes all of the lies. I mean, the guy's a devout liar. I mean, and then he's a Mason. Like, he went to a Masonic temple, and now he's on a Masonic temple, becoming a Grand Mason, a Master Mason, and then he's up at church. Like, I don't see, like, the church, like, consistently loses its way. Grandmaster Wu says real Christians stay tapped into politics because it affects us directly. The federal government is anti-Christian, and that is a problem. And you're 100%. Right? We saw that in the height of 2020, right? And I'll never forget, man. I walked in my church because I was worried that church was shut down and that no one was going to go there, and they rely on the donations. So I went in there to just give a donation into the box. And I had the dirtiest look thrown at me. And I was so mad. I was furious. And but I just stayed in the back of the church and I went and I prayed. I was like, nobody's telling me what when I should and shouldn't pray. And I think that was the worst thing I ever seen. And I agree. I think the church needs to be directly involved in politics, especially surrounding freedom of speech and freedom of religion. And those are two things. And, again, I'm going to say it again, the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, they turned their back on people like myself in 2020 who held on to our faith, who held on to the message of Christ and the teachings of the Bible. And they completely turned their back on us. And, and that's why the Roman Catholic faith is losing so many people and losing so many children. And I don't think they've done enough to promote the message the way that it needs to be promoted. So, yeah, I don't think Eric Adams is there to repent at all.
Not.
Yeah, I don't think he has the ability. He's like I said, the dude to me appears to be a street hustler. He's hustling most in New York City, and they just never seen anybody like this. So they just believe everything that's coming out of his mouth because he's like, "Yeah, don't worry about this. I'm showing you this right here."
I agree. I just want to say I agree that we talked about this before, that the church should play a role when it comes to politics, right? Because of the values that transition. And we need values in laws, in rules, and policy, right? In order to have moral principle and to have policies that make sense for society, they have to be based on value. But it should intercept politics, but it shouldn't intercept politicians. I would hope that doesn't get to the point that that a church is bought. If Eric Adams is there saying, "Hey, listen, I could give a substantial donation to this church, and then the church can advise the right people and make certain moves that benefit Eric Adams," that I have a problem with. So there definitely needs to be, as who made that comment earlier, which is a great comment, there needs to be refuge in the church, and it has to be free from scoundrel. I agree. And they have to have weigh in with politics, but not the politicians. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think there's people that are in direct conflict with the Catholic Church, and they should be called out and said, "Yeah, no, in this race, we're going to support this person because of and these are the reasons why this goes directly against our beliefs. This is why, and that's not to say that they're not welcome in our church. That's not to say you can't come here but we're not going to give you the pulpit, and we're not going to give the person that we're supporting the pulpit either. We're going to pray on both of you. We'll pray on both of you. But the church, having Eric Adams up there laying hands on him, like he's some godly figure. And I'm not saying not to pray for him. He's our elected leader, and I'm not saying not to honor him if he's in your church, but to put him up there as if he's ordained by God, when he's done a lot of things that work directly against everybody seated in those seats, as well as the teachings of the Bible and Jesus Christ. Yeah, I have a big problem with that. I have a big problem with that because has he held true to the church? Have he always held true? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And, like I said, I think when Jesus was speaking to the apostles prior to the creation of the church, he literally, the words he used weren't, "You're going to be my church." It was, "You're going to be my Senate to go out amongst the people." So you're going to be my Senate. You're going to dictate the laws of the land based upon the laws that I've given you. And that's America. A lot of people get mad at this, but America was founded on those principles. The founding of America was based directly upon the Holy Bible. And people get mad, but that's what it is. And that's just the truth. That's the truth of the matter. There's nothing to be mad about. It's what it is. And I think that's why we've prospered for so long. And this is a free country. I mean, it's based upon the principles that Jesus taught.
You and I were talking about, it's funny, right? You and I were talking the other day about Moses. What would Moses think about Eric Adams' leadership style? I mean, honestly, right? What would Moses think about Eric Adams, right? Because Moses was for the people. Eric Adams is for himself. So, again, I think the point of this, I think that you're right, and we agree that it's important for the church or any form of religious belief to have input when it comes to politics, so that they can put their value on things. But I just don't want the church getting corrupted by the politicians themselves. Hey, well, this this politician donated so much to the church, so we have to be behind this politician, even though politics have no values. So I think, we talk about separation between church and state, and I think, not a complete separation, but there has to be free from scoundrel. I think that's a great comment. Absolutely.
Yeah, so Special Hagen writes, the justification of separating church from state is the scripture where Jesus says, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and to God that what is God's. Right? So, and I think people misinterpret that statement, because that statement is not saying that everything that's under Caesar's control, which appears to be, which men believe is under Caesar's control, we leave that to Caesar. What it's actually saying is Caesar only controls the thing that Caesar controls, but he doesn't control the things which is God's, which is basically everything. So when we talk about us, our individual freedoms, our individual rights, our voice, our conscience, our beliefs in God, the environment that God created, Caesar does not control any of those things. Caesar does not control any of those things. We do, right? We do, and if someone can help me with that, get that thing down. I can't stand when that thing keeps popping up. But I think that's a very highly misinterpreted scripture. It relates to me to another scripture, which I relied on a lot in these last 3 years, and it's if you were of the world would love you as its own, but as it is, I have chosen you out of this world. So as the world hated me, so shall it hate you if you follow my beliefs. And I believe that's kind of the same messaging. It's that, you're not in Caesar's world. So let Caesar have whatever he wants. Let Caesar say whatever he wants. Let him do whatever he wants, but you're not going to be ruled by it. You're not going to worry about what Caesar's doing. Seek first ye the kingdom of God. And I think that's it gets misinterpreted to where, like, these people, oh no, Caesar could tell me anything because we separated church and state. No, Caesar can't tell me anything. It's actually the opposite of that. It's actually the reason Christianity is under attack in this country is because we don't fear death. We don't fear people on the pulpit. We don't fear mayors and senators and presidents and armies, and we fear God, right? And that's a scary thing. That's a scary thing when you want to control people.
I think that's a great comment, by the way. So this is something that always comes up, and I'm curious what you think about this, right? Because our forefathers, right, they felt that the right to freedom of speech was not a right that's given to you by man. It's an unalienable right, right? It's a God-given right, your freedom of speech. But the rest of the Bill of Rights, the rest of the amendments are not considered God-given rights. They're just considered rights by man. Do you think that your rights are God-given, or do you think that they are rights by man? And I think that's where we see a big separation when it comes to church and state. And I think that I understand we have some things that are God-given rights, but I think the way that we live in this society, that's really rights by man, because we have rights that are given, but we have rights that could also be taken away by man. What are your thoughts on that? I don't want to get too far into this rabbit hole. I think that's a great comment.
Yeah, let's not go too far down the religion rabbit hole. But yeah, I'll speak on that real quick. And then someone said, "What religion is God? Does anyone know the answer?" No, I'm going to tell you right now. No, I don't believe so either. Do I believe that Jesus is my savior? Absolutely, I do. Could I sit there and down people that are God-fearing, and take care of their family and want to live a good life and live basically under the same values and principles that I do, that they're terrible people? No, and I can't. I don't know. None of us know, right? These are just my beliefs. These are what I think. So are my rights inalienable from God, or are they from the government? In our Constitution, it literally says it, right? In the Bill of Rights, we are endowed with certain unalienable rights that are given to us by our Creator. It literally says it. And so the founding documents of this nation, it says it right there. It says it right there. We have certain unalienable rights, such are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That are not limited to. So I believe that my rights are God-given. I don't believe that my rights come from the government. Now, do you subsede certain rights to government? Of course, your licenses, you pay insurance, you do these things. But overall, that's not a right. That's not a right to live. I don't know what the hell this thing keeps doing. It's really annoying. But
yeah, I always wonder, like, why? When does it go off? Is it, what if I put a thumb up or you do? I don't know.
I don't know. So that's just my opinion is, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of religion, right to pursue happiness, the right to defend yourself. He's got to give it, got to give it right to defend your family.
Well said. I agree.
So and whatever you want to say, whether you want to say they're God-given or they're universal laws, I support you. But to say that, oh no, Eric Adams made that law, we got to listen to it. That's
I think he thinks that, though. Honestly,
he definitely thinks that.
He's so narcissistic. I really do think that, when he says some things, we really don't know what he's for or against. But I do believe when he says certain things, he believes it. When he says, he's the Pope of New York, and people pray to God, they get on their knees and thank God he's the mayor. I really think he believes that, or at least he's convinced himself to believe that. So listen, I think this is a great discussion. I know some people like the religious conversations, some don't, but I think it's great conversations because let's be realistic. Whether you believe it or not, there is crossover from religion to policy to law to politics. There is crossover, whether you're religious or not. There is crossover because we talk about values. So let's move on from this. So it's a great article. We were just talking about this before. This is near and dear to me, of course, when it comes to CCRB. Here's the title. CCRB can punish cops who turn off body cams and also initiate probes without complaint appeals court. Scary stuff. John, let's get to the article.
Yeah, so initiate probes without complaints. Let's not even get into the article because we've been going a while. We only got 20 minutes. So let's just talk about it real quick. Do you think that the Civilian Complaint Review Board should be able to initiate complaints first, and then let's go on to should they be able to punish cops who turn off their body cameras? What do you think about that first? Should they be able to initiate complaints without a complainant?
You know what? You're right. We don't even need to go into this article because I could speak about this for hours. I could speak about this for days, for weeks. Absolutely not. I think it's completely polarizing. I actually put out a post. I'm going to say the same thing again. I think it's polarizing to the actual justice system that we have. The criminal system and the civil system that we have when it comes to initiating complaints, even in civil nature. If you just go to small claims court, the judge can't say, hey, I saw you back into somebody's car and drive away, and that I'm going to initiate a small claim to that owner of that car. It doesn't work that way. Someone has to be the complainant and initiate the complaint. I don't think this, when it comes to CCRB, I don't think that the CCRB should have the authority to initiate a complaint, nor do I think they should have an authority to carry on a complaint based on a third party. I think that unless there's a death involved, there's something completely different, But I think that it has to be initiated by the complainant themselves to actually initiate a complaint by the CCRB. If not, it's completely biased. And we already know the CCRB is biased and shows a disdain to police. Why? We heard Arva Rice herself testify to New York City Council that they do not take the totality of circumstances in account when they do their investigation based on a complaint. The Civilian Complaint Review Board. What they do is they only take the feelings and the expressiveness of the complainant, which could be a perpetrator in that case. That is completely wrong. That's a complete bias and disdain and just shows complete prejudice.
Normally I don't like to feed the trolls, but I gotta Juju does make me laugh sometimes. He says Eric is definitely the kind of cop who will turn off his body cam. Most complaint cop for a reason.
The funny part is Juju would have been happy to have me working for him because we got a lot of guns off the street, a lot without CIs, just on our eye.
The kid, this kid's obsessed. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, you're
Oh, and
right.
Juju, where the hell were you on Saturday, bro? I was hoping to meet, and you never even came.
He couldn't make it. He was at Salty Dog.
Yeah, where were you, Juju? I was,
You can't drive from. It's a pretty far drive when you're drunk.
So I think that should they be able to initiate complaints? No, I don't. They're called a Civilian Complaint Review Board for a reason. They're reporting complaints. They're investigating complaints from civilians. Where do you investigate? You don't have enough complaints? I mean, that's like, dude, like, this might be an argument if they were actually an efficient agency, which they're not. They're clueless. First of all, they get tons and tons of complaints. They can't handle the volume. They don't properly investigate the complaints that they have. So what the hell are they now? They're going to go fishing to find more complaints so that they're not going to be able to process and properly vet. And the whole thing's insane to me. I mean, and then, you look at it as if they're like this first class investigative agency, but and by all means, they're not even close to it. I mean, they run Mickey Mouse investigations. They can't handle the workload they have. So I'm not understanding how they're doing this. And I'm hearing through the grapevine that there's a lot of racial profiling, not just racial profiling cases that are now being substantiated by the CCRB. Again, we did a whole episode about profiling cases. How do you even prove it? I haven't been attended, and I don't think Eric has either, the CCRB meetings, but we're gonna have to go back and ask, because I have a few questions about that. We're gonna have to ask some more questions about that. But yeah, so I don't understand what this push is and how you could even properly investigate without a complainant. What is it that you're investigating? It's crazy.
Well, here's the other problem, right? To prove the bias and disdain that we see from the CCRB. So there was a period John and I were attending the Civilian Complaint Review Board meetings on a monthly basis virtually. It even got to the point that they didn't even let me speak, and I actually had to make a complaint that they suppressed my First Amendment speech. So now, if you ever have an opportunity, we'll let you know. Maybe we'll attend the next meeting. If you like to attend, just participate virtually. You don't have to speak, especially if you're an active member of the service. But just listen to what goes on in the Civilian Complaint Review Board, and you can hear the prejudice, the bias, and disdain for police yourself. But what do we hear also, John? Friends and listeners, you have to, if we have an opportunity, maybe we'll find that video again. So Arva Rice testified to the city council, just as I said before, some of the stuff she spoke about. But what did she also say? And we heard it from Jonathan Darsh himself also, that when the Civilian Complaint Review Board does their investigations, they do the investigation leading in the direction to find guilt on the officer. And if they can find that guilt, so that that officer can receive punishment. But what happens is sometimes in the patrol guide that they're allotted to do the things that they do. So, John, do you remember that? They specifically said that the investigation is geared to find the cop guilty. So think about that. A complaint is initiated, and their job, they're not allowing the investigation to play out if it exonerates the police officer or if it finds the police officer guilt. They're actually trying to lead the direction to find how they could find the police officer guilty, and then they look at the patrol guide to see if they could find something that fits that. That's basically what they said. And they're not allowing the investigation just to play out organically. So if they're initiating a complaint, that means they're showing extreme bias. Well, we see something we don't like, and we already have found that person guilty, and we don't even require an investigation. We'll find something that fits. Complete bias, complete disdain, complete prejudice. That's what's going on with CCRB. Absolutely. And I also think that a third party should not be allowed to initiate a complaint either. We need a complaint that actually comes from the complainant themselves. And I also have a problem, and it happened to me in my trials, when the complainant does not show up and testify. If you make a complaint and a police officer could potentially be terminated for that civilian complaint, that complainant should have to testify. Otherwise, that case should be dismissed.
It's called a civilian complaint review board, and that's it. I've seen them go after, and the thing is, I've seen them use third party complaints, and even that's ridiculous. Like, honestly, no, they shouldn't be able to initiate complaints. Anyone that says they should, we welcome you to come on and debate the reasoning, and please just provide examples of where that would work. We'd be more than happy to have the conversation with you. So let us know. All right, so let's move on. We got about 10 minutes left. CCRB can punish cops who turn off body cameras. Eric, what are your thoughts around that? Should cops be able to turn their body cameras off, and if so, at which points?
So we just spoke about that before offline, and I said there should be an opportunity that you're allotted, and you said it will never be it will never happen. They'll never allow it. And I agree, they'll never allow it. But there are scenarios where you need to turn off your camera. I've been in situations where we have an arrest situation. There's 3 people wanted for a robbery. We have 1 person in custody, and now we have 2 other people, and there's a large crowd swarming and protecting those 2 subjects that are going to be arrested. So sometimes I may need, as the lieutenant, if you were the sergeant or whatever the case is, maybe you're a fellow lieutenant, we're working together, and I pull you to the side and we're going to coordinate a strategic plan of how we're going to make these apprehensions, how we're going to utilize our police officers, how we're going to move in to keep everybody safe. Do I want that on body camera? Do I want to give all my tactical experience to the public? Absolutely not. I don't want to release all that information. We also spoke about it. What if I have a confidential informant that approaches me and says, hey, listen, you see that guy over there? That's something that I may want to be off camera. And, we argued. We spoke and said they would never allow it, that they want that redacted. But I don't even like the idea of it being redacted because someone still has the opportunity to see it. So there should be times that you're allowed to turn off the body camera. Franklin Valdez, New York City baby, it should have never dropped a lawsuit against body-worn camera. You're absolutely right, brother. Spot on. John, what do you think?
So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say if I'm the mayor right now, or if I'm in charge of the NYPD, I'm going to say absolutely not. You should never be able to turn off your body camera during critical event, during any event. And I'm just going to give you some reasons why. So I understand what you're saying, and I understand there's confidentiality issues. I understand possibly CIs. I understand private conversations that don't need to be shared with other investigative authorities, such as the CCRB, or that don't need to be shared amongst the public at some time, for a time during certain investigations. But I'll just give you like one scenario that's like running in my head about it. Let's say there was an incident and you had a little TAC meeting off to the side and you shut your body cameras down, right? And you had a little TAC meeting off to the side, and then something goes bad, right? Or whatever happens, that you turn your body camera back on, you interact with a suspect, and now you're involved in a fatal police shooting of a victim, right? And one of the cops now makes an allegation. Well, Lieutenant Dim told me to shoot him when we came out of that. Anything of that story, and now that's all lost, right? And so it's interference in an investigation. I do think that these body cameras need to be more highly redacted, and I don't believe they are, because there's just way too many of them. So again, like I said, we're either going to be transparent or we're not. And I believe that turning your body camera off removes transparency. That's just one scenario. I could give 5 million. Like, I could give 5 million scenarios on why you shouldn't be able to turn your body camera off. I was not a big fan of body cameras. I said from the get-go, I think that this is going to detract from proactive police work. I think that this is creating a stain on the public. I think that these cameras are going to be used like ESPN, and people are going to break down seconds and split seconds and find you guilty without knowing what you were thinking at that time. And I mean, all of the things I said about it have been proven true, but now we're here and we're in the age of transparency. And I just think it is what it is at this point. Let throw it up on the big screen and critique away. It's terrible, but that's what it is.
Listen, I agree. And I think that there's an argument to say, hey, sometimes we could turn it off and sometimes not. I mean, what if you have your camera on, and it happens all the time. You know, I used to say, you're in a situation, we're addressing a situation. Let's be honest, in New York City, nobody cares if you're making an arrest. I've had situations, I'm on the floor fighting with a guy, and there's people coming up and they're trying to talk to me while I'm fighting. And I'm sure you've probably been in the situation. They don't care. And so, and I've had women come up to me out of nowhere. You know, maybe I'm standing there, we're addressing something, and come up and tell me, you know, they were sexually assaulted. And what if that woman comes over and starts telling me some intimate information? I don't want that on body camera. She doesn't want that on body camera. So, and my body camera's already going. So maybe, what do you think about an option? I thought about this, but that's a problem also of being able to continue having the camera on, but turning off the audio. I mean, that's something maybe to look at. But again, it goes back to what you said. It may give the appearance that you're hiding information. It's just not a perfect world when it comes to body cameras. I know what you're saying, and I think redacting would be the right way to go. But if you and I have to personally redact that information, especially if you're working in a busy command and you're just a busy law enforcement officer the entire day, and you have to go back to that camera at the end of the day, it costs the taxpayer a lot of money, because now you need to spend time on overtime to go back and figure out what information has to be redacted, what's going to be the process. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. And I think there's an argument for both, John. I don't think that, I got to be honest, I don't think you're wrong or I'm wrong or you're right or I'm right. I just think there's different ways to look at it. But if we do agree that the body camera should be on at all times or not, I still don't think it should be in the hands of the Civilian Complaint Review Board, because the only caption that they would have is abuse of authority. So if you turn off your camera, is that abuse of authority? I mean, I hate that language anyway when it comes to Civilian Complaint Review Board. Abuse of authority. I mean, I was hit with abuse of authority on numerous things because I told someone, listen, if you don't produce your license after begging for 20 minutes and the window is up, and listen, and I said, listen, if you don't do this, you're going to be placed on arrest. That's an abuse of authority. So I have a problem with that caption when it comes to CCRB.
Well, I mean, you know, like I said, first of all, I'm shocked that that's not a CCRB already, an allegation already. You know, I mean, just, oh, they handcuffed me, they shut the body camera off, and then the guy came over and stepped on my head. Oh, they handcuffed me, we fought, they, you know, that, and then they put me in the back seat of the car, shut their body camera off, and beat the crap out of me. You know, so I'm shocked that that's not there already. And if that's the case, that just shows how incompetent the people in the city are, that like literally 10 years later, but you know, like we're now saying that, hey, so maybe this should be an allegation. It's like, oh, you think? I'm sure that allegation has probably been made probably 1 million times already. And they had nowhere to put it. So that's a shocker to me. The other thing is, I just think at this point it's the transparency age, and I just think everything should be out there in the open. You know, I think anything that we talk about, any scenarios, we're kind of just dancing around the fact that like we're either for transparency or not. You know, it reminds me of the Joe Pesci scene in Casino where he's like, what if I just want to go to those casino and get one of those sandwiches I like? It's like, yeah, no, bro, you're not allowed. You're black. You're not allowed to go to the casino. Like, that's it. Like, you know, and it's it. I don't care. Don't give me any scenarios, you know, don't give me any, like, that's what I'm thinking. And I got to be honest, at this point, I think that this is it. This is where we're at. You know, it's ESPN. Police work has become ESPN. And that's why we're now police analysts, Eric. We've never had police analysts before, but it's partly due to the body camera. And I'm not saying that it's a good thing or not. I'm just saying that's just what it is. And I don't see us going backwards on it ever. If anything, it's going to be even worse. You know, there's going to be a little drone following you around, like, you know, it's you know, so I just can't see pulling it back. Yeah, and I'm just shocked that they don't even that they're just now asking for this.
I got a question for you, or maybe it's a statement. Could you imagine Eric Adams and Timothy Pearson and Philip Banks and all these people had to wear body cameras all day?
I would love it.
I wonder what would be on those cameras.
That would be. I wish they had to do it in the contract meetings too, or the meetings with the vendors. That would be the best TV show ever. That would be the highest rated TV show.
Oh
ever.
My God!
You know, that would be Crumbs, the series. It would be unbelievable. Crumbs the series. So it will go from a book to a movie to a series.
Well, why not? If police officers have to wear body cameras, why not the elected officials that appoint the leadership? Put body cameras on them too.
Body camera, everybody. I said the same thing for the teachers. They were all calling for us to wear body camera. They said, then you should wear a body camera too. Why do I got to wear a body camera? That's a great question. Why do I got to wear a body camera? I'm like, this is what inquirer minds want to know. Like, we either trust our public servants or we don't. And if we don't, then everybody should have to wear it, you know? Last thing, we had one of our friends ask if we could just talk about this real quick. Let me just pull this up before we get out of here. I know we keep going over.
That's all right. Now, how many people we have in here, by the way? Please like and subscribe. We appreciate it. You know, for the majority of the people, sometimes we forget. But if you're here, you still listen, we appreciate it. Especially if you're on YouTube, hit that like button. We really appreciate it. How many do we have right now total?
We got about 900, 880 something. So we had that about the whole time. So, you know, we appreciate all you people. Yeah. But please like and subscribe. And please, those of you on Twitter, please just hit the repost. Even if you don't like us, repost with like I don't care, you know. And you know, I'm kind of disappointed in Juju, you and all your friends, because we haven't been getting. We had so many funny Apple reviews like that were like they were like one. They were like we got like 1 star or no stars, and that hasn't happened in months. And I used to love sharing those. I thought those were the funniest things ever. You know, it was like this podcast is a great case on why the police should be defunded.
You know what's pretty funny? You know what's pretty funny? These trolls thought that we would get upset and mad. We love it. I just want to tell you, Juju, and all our trolls, we love it. We laugh all the time. I'll tell John, you got to look at this comment. They called me an asshole, and they said something stupid about me. They said something stupid about you. We laugh. We think it's hysterical. So keep it coming.
Yeah,
you know,
I think Sergeant Blue has a crush on Latina. I meant to acknowledge you before, Sergeant Blue, and I forgot. I slipped because we kept talking. But he says, bring back Latina, please. I know what you want. I know why you want her on.
We know.
I see you, guy. Don't worry.
She was easy on the eyes.
She had a couple other fans, too. You know, she had a couple other fans, too, the past couple of days. So. Yeah, but we're always, listen, Latina Brown's always welcome on here. She will be back on, and we're working on other things in the background too as well. So that when the time's right, we'll talk about those. So, all right, let's talk about this. Eric Adams has a secret office. So I forget who put this in. They didn't put it in the chat. And for those of you on Twitter, please, my phone blows up all day. I barely check my messages, but I just looked over and I saw this. So just please, if you ever want to comment or you want us to respond to something, please make sure you're in the live chat. A lot of you aren't. You just comment on the post, and we don't see that while we're live. We'll see it after if we see it at all. So in the live chat's the best way. So this is coming from Politico. This was out in 2022, right? This the yet unreported workspace is the latest example of fledgling mayor fiercely guarding his privacy as he acclimates to the most public political jobs in America. This is by Sally Goldenberg. Mayor Eric Adams and top deputy have outfitted offices in a highly secure tower near the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge, availing themselves of a private hideout with a sweeping skyline views that both minutes and worlds away from the hustle and bustle of City Hall and is right near One Police Plaza. The yet unreportedly workspace is the latest example of the fledgling mayor fiercely guarding his privacy as he acclimates to one of the most public political jobs in the world. Adams and Phil Banks, his deputy mayor for public safety, nestled their offices within 375 Pearl Street, a 32-story structure commonly known as the Verizon Building that declares itself the most secure and resilient building in Manhattan, according to interviews with 15 people who work in or around government and are aware of the arrangement. The setup offers them what City Hall cannot, a covert space away from the prying eyes of city council members, reporters, and employees who work in the building and can spot much activity within. The mayor already had a private office at City Hall, and as do deputy mayors and few top staffers. Most employees either work in the bullpen, an open space that Mike Bloomberg instituted after becoming mayor 20 years ago, or offices in the basement. And while City Hall is open to the public, visitors must enter through public metal detector and exterior gate and are often asked by NYPD to provide a rationale for their attendance. Banks and Adams decided after taking office in January to set up shop in a private building where NYPD Human Resources Administration, Finance Sanitation Agency leased space. So, all right, we don't need to go any further into this. Just here's the facts. 375 Pearl Street is right next to One Police Plaza, right? You actually can't even drive into it. Like you're actually driving into the secure zone of One Police Plaza if you want to get on a side of it or around the back of it. In the front, you could pull up on, obviously it's a street there, but right at the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge. So that is a fact. Yes, Timothy Pearson, Phil Banks have offices there. So do other employees in the NYPD. They spent millions of dollars renovating those offices. So yes, 100%. That is a fact. That this is not a lie. This article is 100% correct. 375 Pearl Street. They have offices there. Eric, what do you think about us having offices? And just a point of note for everyone, including you, the NYPD has more leased facilities than it does owned facilities. So we lease space all over the city. And there's a, I'm not going to get into it, but whatever. We have a vast array of real estate across the city.
Oh, I know. I've been to that Verizon building many times at 375 Pearl Street. You had risk management there, and I went to risk management numerous times as I was handed level 2 monitoring for all my civilian complaints. So I seen all the offices there, and it's cost the taxpayer a lot of money. Those offices are illustrious. It's some high-tech offices, high-tech equipment at that location. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that they have extra offices there and they lease all this property. It's beautiful. While simultaneously, the average precinct in New York City is crumbling and coming down. There's police officers that work in Police Service Area 2. If anybody knows Police Service Area 2 in Brooklyn North, first of all, floods on a constant basis. These police officers stand in water, disgusting sewage water, up to their knees. Constantly do they have to get new uniforms. They have to move their lockers because it's just disgusting. They're losing all their equipment, and yet they have all these illustrious leased offices. It's absolutely ridiculous. Any police officer out there right now, if you're in PSA 2, I know a lot about it. It's horrible. It's disgusting. Some of these cops in transit, they don't even have a place to change. It's ridiculous. Some of these locations, these precincts, Police Service Area 8, which is in the northern section of the Bronx, the precinct is still in housing. They don't even have their own precinct. It's horrendous. It's dilapidated. This is just another plight on the police officers. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, well, PSA 2, I mean, that's still in housing as well. It's funny, when I was in building maintenance, my boss sent me there. He's like, hey, could you do a survey of it? So I go there. There's literally a waste pipe in the gym, and I believe through the locker room. I hadn't been, this was years ago. So I believe through the locker room. I know in the gym there was a waste pipe there, and it leaks. And I'm like, what the hell is this? You know, so I'm like, well, this got to get fixed. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, so they were like trying to create more offices. And I came back and like, I labeled all the problems, and I'm like, and they're like, well, what do you think we need to do? I said, I think we need to lease them a facility or build them a facility. This is disgusting. This is dilapidated. This is a health hazard. This is horrendous. I said, but in the meantime, could we at least fix the leaking waste pipe? And they're like, yeah, you know what the problem is though? It's a housing. It's under a housing, and that pipe belongs to housing, so we can't touch it. I'm like, so we could get all this money and have these people living in the lap of luxury, Eric Adams and his friend. And I mean, like high end, like if you ever been to any of these new gyms where they have like high end spas and high end showers and like these new workout facilities where it's like all this holistic style with like fancy stuff. The new offices that the NYPD has leased and the money they spent to build these places out are nothing short of breathtaking. I mean, they're probably rivaling Google, if not beating Google offices and things of that nature. And this is all happening on New York City taxpayer dime. while the people who actually make the wheels turn in public safety in New York City, not the ones that are there just for the grift, they're suffering in dilapidated conditions, which is a hazard to their health, their mental health, their physical health, their overall well-being, as well as the people they arrest that process there, as well as the people, the public that comes in there for whatever services they need from the New York City Police Department. It's also a hazard to all of those people as well. So I don't think that they should have these offices. An article had came out from Tina Moore stating that the feds had visited 375 Pearl Street. So Phil Banks, or at PBB3, which he is on X, said that that's a lie, that never happened. I'm going to say right now that I've heard several times that the feds had visited 375 Pearl. And that was way before that article ever came out. So I think if I had to guess on whether if I had to put my money on whether the feds has visited 375 Pearl or not, I'm going to not only guess that they've been there, I'm going to say they've been there multiple times.
Absolutely. No doubt. That's an illustrious building. There's all high-ranking people there. Like I said, especially risk management, where they have some high-paid attorneys that are at risk management, where they oversee the stop, question, and frisk program. They look at all the stop, question, and frisk reports. Believe it or not, it's funny. Simultaneously, I was put on level 2 monitoring. Anybody here that is familiar with the police department, we have a lot of outside people here also, but if you're familiar with the NYPD, level 2 monitoring, means you're held to certain hours you could work, and you bind to certain rules. This was all Civilian Complaint Review Board driven, but simultaneously, I was also offered potential positions to be a trainer, to train police officers how to do police work. So they want me to train police officers how to do intrusive police work. And at the same time, I'm getting attacked by an overzealous Civilian Complaint Review Board, and I can't even do what I'm paid and trained to do no longer. And no one was standing up saying, hey, listen, we need to help this guy out and figure this out here because he's doing good police work. The police department only steps in. If I would have known, I would have joined the Hispanic Society, but I would probably, because Lou Turco said he was going to speak to Lou Turco, the LBA president, said he was going to speak to Ed Caban for me and get these cases dismissed. If I would have known, I would have joined the Hispanic Society. If I could back pay those dues, I would do it right now if I could. But
me too.
Little did I know.
And not just for the parties either.
I would have went to the parties too. I don't know about Cansafritos, but
yeah, that one I would have probably strayed away from.
Hey, you got that thumbs up.
Dude, I'm not even giving a thumbs up. Today has been like the worst it's ever been.
There's got to be keywords. I got to figure it out. It's got to be keywords or something. But look, we're at 2 hours and 40 minutes into it of Friends and Listeners podcast. I want to thank you so much for being with us on a daily basis and weighing in. And there's a lot of great comments here. A lot of great comments. I know we talked about church and state and Eric Adams and Timothy Pearson and CCRB and officers at 375 Pearl. There's just an array of topics. The content doesn't stop when it comes to New York City and the NYPD. Listen, like I said, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for those that dip into your pockets. We really appreciate it. And if there's stuff that you want to discuss on this podcast, like John said, put it in the comments. Put it on the chat or send this information www.thefinest.unfiltered.com, or sometimes John gets contacted directly on his DMs and Instagram or X, or same thing for myself. If you want something discussed on the podcast, please, send this information. And if you want some support, please just give us information to back the claim. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much. What do you got, John?
Yeah, no, appreciate everybody. Had almost 1,000 people on here with us the whole time. So, appreciate you guys for coming in. We'll be back live again, 8:05 tomorrow to see what's coming up next. Will there be another indictment? Will there be another resignation? Which day that'll be? I don't think it's a matter of if there will be, more than when it will be. So that's 100% coming. So we'll bring that to you as it comes. We're gonna keep working on Crumbs, from South Jamaica, Queens to City Hall.
John, I got Ingrid, John. Just want to tell you that. I got Ingrid.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna say Banks is the next to fall. There's just too many contracts. I don't want to talk about it. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow, but there was a technology contract around buses that not only was he involved in, but his brother David Banks was involved in, and his third brother was involved in. I mean, so that's why I'm saying it. It's just there's just too many investigations. So yeah, so all these that are calling for that 50 Cent documentary, it's going to pale in comparison to the book Crumbs and to the movie Crumbs. I know, we're gonna work to see if we could get Scorsese to direct it. We're gonna bring in all the music, all the voiceovers. It's gonna go similar to it's gonna be a similar movie to Goodfellas. We might smash it, but I guarantee you this one thing: we're gonna beat Eric Adams' book when it comes out. Whatever he sells, we're gonna quadruple it. I'll guarantee it. I'm saying it right now. So Eric, if you're listening to this, Crumbs is going to top your book, buddy.
I gotta laugh. Listen, thank you so much, friends and listeners to the podcast. Listen, it's really comes down to things may get worse before they get better. How do we make it better? You got to make the right votes. Vote for our friend Tom Sullivan, State Assembly. Check him out. Real patriot in New York City, New York State, and America. He served his country, he served his city, and he continues to serve his community. Thank you so much.
Tom Sullivan, State Assembly, baby. Tom Sullivan is the Republican, Conservative, and Common Sense Party candidate for New York State Assembly District 23. Tom is a financial professional who served simultaneously in the United States Army Reserve for 30 years and has now retired. His district covers Ozone Park, Lindenwold, Howard Beach, Broad Channel, and the Rockaway Peninsula.
Come November, I would empower our law enforcement agencies to go out there and do their job and not put them or their families or their pensions at risk for doing their jobs. We need drastic change in Albany so that we have a say in this matter, and they realize people of New York State will hold them accountable.
The Sullivan family has a legacy of service. Tom served for 30 years protecting and defending the rights of others. Come this November, he has earned your support. This advertisement's paid for by the Friends of Tom Sullivan.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.